Chapter 305. The various princes sat down on their respective stone platforms, no longer chasing Qin Wentian and the others away. The guards they brought with them also stood on their respective platforms, causing the atmosphere to turn somewhat strange. On the stone platforms far away, the spectators were all astonished. The sleeping god, who slept all day, the lazy and wretched fatty, the axe demon who wielded his axe every day, their strength was actually so terrifying. Not only that, their guts were a little too big, directly killing the second son of King Yi and ignoring the three princes. The spectators couldn't help but be impressed by their courage. Yet, the three of them only wanted to stand up for the little lass Yi Shi. This caused many to sigh in admiration at the purity of their relationship. Many of those who had been in the Gazing Dragon Mountain Rampart for a long time knew that the relationship between the three of them and Yi Shi was actually very simple. They had only met each other here by chance, and after that, Yi Shi would often make snacks for them to eat. They would often chat and laugh together, but it was precisely because of such a pure relationship that the three of them directly offended the royal clan of Qiyun. What strange people! Someone silently mused. They were suddenly filled with curiosity. When King Yi and his experts arrived, how would they deal with them? The gentle rays of the sun cascaded down onto the Gazing Dragon Mountain Rampart, yet many in the crowd felt a slight chill. From afar, the sound of the wind whistling could be heard as a group of people filled with killing intent roared in their direction. The person in the lead was an imposing middle-aged man. At this moment, the killing intent on his face was extremely terrifying. Just the aura he exuded was enough to cause the spectators to shiver. This person was none other than King Yi. Not long after, King Yi's group arrived before the Gazing Dragon Mountain Rampart. A heavy pressure enveloped the entire space as King Yi coldly stated, "Who?" "The three of them." The person Chu Mang released was standing behind King Yi, pointing at Qin Wentian, Chu Mang, and Fan Luo. Rumble. Abruptly releasing his astral souls, a majestic eagle appeared above King Yi's head, exuding a powerful demonic qi. He glanced at Yi Shi and Yi Zheng, before turning his gaze onto the three princes. "Your Highness, the son of my son, because of Yi Shi, I have to kill both father and daughter today. I beg for your forgiveness." The second prince stared at Yi Zheng and Yi Shi. Now, Yi Zheng was no longer of much value to him. Moreover, Yi Cheng's death might cause King Yi to be unhappy with him. "I won't get involved in the grudges between you two." The princes had no intention of getting involved. Buzz! A raging wind gusted by as King Yi personally made his move. He was akin to a majestic eagle swooping down. However, Chu Mang's silhouette flickered as he instantly appeared in front of Fan Luo. His great axe cleaved downwards as a terrifying mandate of slash gushed forth, as though a gigantic dragon had manifested. King Yi's fingers turned into a terrifying sharp claw as he struck out with his palm. His aura exploded and the attacks of the two collided in an instant. Both of them took a step back. Amazing! The spectators could feel the aura exuding from Chu Mang. His mandate of axe was at the first level, the mandate of slash. His mandate of axe was at the transformation boundary, yet he was able to clash head-on against King Yi. Capture the others. Kill Yi Zheng directly. I want the others alive, including Yi Shi. I'll make her wish she was dead. King Yi roared in a low voice as he dashed towards Chu Mang once again. His majestic eagle astral soul granted him an even stronger attack power, as well as a speed that was as fast as lightning. Chu Mang was obviously not as agile as him. Another person stepped out. This person also exuded an aura at the 8th level of Yuanfu, walking towards Yi Zheng and the rest. Yi Shi's countenance turned pale. This person with a cultivation base at the 8th level of Yuanfu was the #1 guest elder of King Yi's manor. "I'll go block him." Yi Zheng spoke. Only he had a sliver of hope. "There's no need for that." Qin Wentian calmly replied. As the sound of his voice faded, he stomped on the stone platform beneath his feet. Instantly, the entire space around him started to shimmer as terrifying runic inscriptions appeared beneath the feet of the crowd. From yesterday until today, Qin Wentian had enough time to finish inscribing the divine inscriptions and wait for the arrival of these people. Although this place was only a small country, Qin Wentian wasn't so arrogant as to use brute force against them. A terrifying storm of sword qi engulfed the entire space as a terrifying vortex of sword qi appeared on the ground. The fourth-ranked sword tempest was a combination of several small-scale sword tempest inscriptions, and these small-scale sword tempest inscriptions were all at the peak of the third-ranked. This is... The countenance of the 8th-level Yuanfu cultivator stiffened. An instant later, a fearsome tempest of sword tempest inscriptions gushed towards him. He soared up into the air, wanting to flee, only to see a terrifying sword materializing within the tempest. With a howl of rage, the sword transformed into a streak of white lightning. Puchi, a crisp sound rang out as the body of the 8th-level Yuanfu cultivator froze in the air. After which, he was swallowed whole by the tempest of sword tempest inscriptions. As for those who dashed towards Qin Wentian and Yi Shi, they were all pierced through by the sword shadows, dying on the spot. The battle between King Yi and Chu Mang came to an abrupt end. King Yi stared in horror at the scene before him as his body trembled involuntarily. Sword Qi whistled past him, as though the tempest of sword tempest inscriptions could swallow him whole at any moment. How is this possible? The three princes as well as their subordinates all stared in shock at Qin Wentian. Not only were King Yi and the others affected by the divine inscriptions, the stone platforms they were sitting on were all enveloped by the glow of divine inscriptions. This indicated that right now, their lives were in the hands of Qin Wentian. "Sir, what do you mean by this?" One of the princes stared at Qin Wentian. "From now onwards, no one is allowed to move. If not, I will kill you without mercy." A cold voice rang out from Qin Wentian's mouth, causing the spectators in the distance to tremble involuntarily. This was too arrogant. Qin Wentian quietly stood there, yet it was as though he was in control of everything. The life and death of these members of the royal clan were all in his hands. King Yi. Qin Wentian stared at King Yi. King Yi's countenance turned ashen as he stared back at him. "I will only ask you once. Back then, the death of Yishi's mother, what happened? You only have one chance to answer me." Qin Wentian calmly spoke. That handsome young man seemed harmless, yet no one dared to doubt his words. King Yi's mind shuddered. The death of Yishi's mother, the eyes of the second prince gleamed with sharpness as he stared at King Yi. "If your answer is wrong, the people you brought here will all die. If the words you say have nothing to do with this, they will all die as well." Qin Wentian spoke again, each of his words piercing straight into King Yi's heart. He wanted to negotiate, yet Qin Wentian told him that if his answer was wrong, he would kill him. If it had nothing to do with this, he would kill him. Staring into the eyes of that young man, King Yi had never felt such intense fear before. The spectators all sighed in their hearts. This young man was too ruthless, too decisive. King Yi didn't even know what his ending would be if he spoke the truth. He only had one chance to speak. "I don't have that much time to wait for you. Speak within 3 breaths of time." Qin Wentian pressed on. King Yi's countenance paled as he replied, "It was the second prince." He wanted Yizheng to gain insights from the gazing dragon mountain rampart, but Yizheng rejected him. "Hence, I sacrificed my wife's elder brother. He wanted me to do it, but I had no other choice." "Impudent!" The second prince roared in rage. "Uncle Yi." Qin Wentian turned his gaze onto Yizheng, only to see Yizheng nodding his head. "There's no mistake." Qin Wentian nodded, his gaze abruptly shifting to the second prince. "That's just his side of the story." The countenance of the second prince turned ashen. "Politics?" The coldness in Qin Wentian's eyes intensified. Back in Chu, he already had a deep understanding of this. Sword Qi whistled through the air. The second prince's countenance paled as he coldly stated, "This is Qiyun." "Die." Qin Wentian spat out a single word. In an instant, the sword Qi engulfed the second prince, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble violently. The second prince had fallen. The eyes of Yi Zheng and Yi Shi froze. What a murderer! Did he die just like that? Who? Yi Zheng drew in a deep breath, feeling as though everything was surreal. Every day, he would think about how to take revenge, how to protect Yi Shi, but he soon discovered that it was impossible. Uncle Yi, bring Yi Shi away from here. The world outside is extremely vast. Qin Wentian stared at Yi Zheng, causing Yi Zheng to freeze for a moment before he nodded his head. It was indeed time for him to leave. Wentian go. Yi Shi's beautiful eyes froze, only to see Qin Wentian gently stroking her head as he smiled. You have to be as happy as you were during these past few days. I can't bear to part with all of you. Yi Shi's eyes were red as she hugged Qin Wentian. Go on. Qin Wentian patted Yi Shi's shoulders, a faint smile on his face. I have no way to repay your kindness. Yi Zheng clasped his hands towards Qin Wentian and the rest, before pulling Yi Shi over to his side. Their silhouettes flickered as they departed. Wentian go, Chu Mang go, Fan Lu bro, you guys have to be happy too. In the air, Yi Shi's tears flowed uncontrollably, as she waved her hands towards Qin Wentian and the rest. You finally called me Fan Lu bro? Fatty grinned, the smile on his face was exceptionally radiant. This little lass had accompanied them for so many days. Now that they were separated, he couldn't bear to part with her. Chu Mang also waved his hands. Finally, Yi Zheng and Yi Shi's silhouettes gradually disappeared, flying in the opposite direction of Qiyun. It was likely that they would never return. Qin Wentian glanced at Chu Mang and Fan Lu. Initially, he had planned to stay here for a period of time, but now it seemed that it was about time for him to depart. It was just that before he left, he still had to wait for Yi Zheng and Yi Shi to leave this place, so that they wouldn't be pursued. However, what made Qin Wentian surprised was that a few hours later, a group of people arrived. The person in the lead was an old man and two young men. The two young men were a man and a woman, both exuding an extraordinary aura. Upon seeing them, the other two princes were overjoyed. They bowed to the old man. We pay our respects to Senior. The old man lightly nodded his head, as he swept his gaze onto Qin Wentian and the rest. With just a single glance, Qin Wentian felt an immense pressure bearing down on him. This old man was a heavenly dipper sovereign. Qin Wentian had initially thought that Qiyun was the same as Chu, where heavenly dipper sovereigns were considered ancestors. Who would have thought that they would meet one so soon? We pay our respects to young Master Ouyang and Miss Ouyang. The two princes politely greeted the two young men, their words causing Qin Wentian's eyes to flicker. Surnamed Ouyang? In that case, their identities were obvious. No wonder there were heavenly dipper sovereigns here, they weren't from Qiyun. Chapter 306. Qiyun was considered a vassal country of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, similar to the relationship between the Nine Mystical Palace and Chu. Even if someone from the Ouyang aristocrat clan appeared here, the princes of Qiyun still had to be polite. Back then, when Xiao Lan from the Nine Mystical Palace came to Chu Tianjiao also had to bow his head in submission. At this moment, in front of the rampart, the heavenly dipper sovereign swept his gaze over to Qin Wentian and the others, his eyes gleaming with a brilliant light. The divine inscriptions in front of him were so exquisite that they surrounded the people of Qiyun, not daring to move in the slightest. Who was the one who inscribed this divine inscription? The old man asked, causing the gazes of the crowd to land on Qin Wentian. The old man swept his gaze over as he similarly stared at Qin Wentian. His aged eyes gleamed with a divine light, as though he wanted to see through Qin Wentian. You guys came all the way here just because of these few people? Miss Ouyang coldly asked as she stared at the princes of Qiyun. She inclined her head high, like a proud princess, disdainfully staring down at the people of Qiyun. So many experts had fallen in the hands of three young men. How humiliating. The two princes lowered their heads, not daring to refute her words. Qiyun was a country that was adjacent to the Azure continent, and was considered a vassal power of the Azure Emperor Palace. Because of the close distance, the Azure Emperor Palace's control over Qiyun far surpassed the 9 mystical palaces' control over Chu. Hence, the prestige of the Ouyang aristocrat clan in Qiyun was even higher compared to the 9 mystical palace in Chu. Not only that, the disciples of the Ouyang aristocrat clan would frequently come to Qiyun to comprehend the rampart. This place was left behind by a heavenly dipper sovereign of Qiyun, and there were many extremely powerful characters who had left their innate techniques and cultivation arts here. Miss Ouyang, the strength of these 3 are extraordinary and can be used by the Ouyang aristocrat clan. At this moment, King Yi spoke. Just when he was in a difficult position, he turned and spoke to Qin Wentian. Miss Ouyang and young Master Ouyang are both from the Ouyang aristocrat clan of the Azure continent. If the 2 of you could join us, it would be an extremely fortunate matter. Obviously, King Yi wanted to take this opportunity to pull strings and persuade Qin Wentian to let him go. At the same time, he could gain the favor of the Ouyang clan. In this way, he might be able to escape this calamity. Oh. The young man looked at Qin Wentian and asked faintly, how so? That brat has a cultivation base at the 5th level of Yuanfu and can insta-kill cultivators at the same level as him with his arrows. Not only that, he has also comprehended many types of mandates. That axe wielder has a cultivation base at the 7th level of Yuanfu and can easily contend against me. As for the last one, he single-handedly trapped all of us. At this moment, in order to preserve his life, King Yi had already forgotten about the enmity between him and Qin Wentian. As nobility, he knew that he had to take advantage of the situation. At this moment, preserving his life was the most important thing. This divine inscription is indeed not bad. The old man at the Heavenly Dipper realm indifferently commented. The silhouette of the Ouyang clan's young lady flickered as she instantly appeared in front of Qin Wentian. Her speed was extremely fast. Her cultivation base was at the 6th level of Yuanfu and she had already comprehended the mandate. In the center of her palms, a sharp dagger suddenly appeared, piercing towards Qin Wentian's throat. This attack was extremely fast. His opponent's silhouette was like a bolt of lightning, and the ice-cold dagger had already neared Qin Wentian's throat. The coldness of the dagger was so intense that it felt as though it wanted to freeze Qin Wentian's body. Qin Wentian lifted his hands and stabbed out with a finger. Momentarily, astral light flashed as the power of void shattering gushed forth, causing the short dagger to vibrate. The young lady only felt her arms shuddering, as though the dagger was about to fall out of her hands. She instantly retreated, returning to her original position. The 3 of you, follow me back to the Ouyang aristocrat clan 7 days from now, the young lady stated, as though this was a gift to Qin Wentian and the other 2. To those from Qiyun, being able to enter the Ouyang aristocrat clan was undoubtedly a dream come true. After hearing her words, expressions of envy and admiration appeared on the faces of the crowd. Who would have thought that the sleeping god and the axe demon would be so powerful, able to enter the Ouyang aristocrat clan and obtain such a heaven-sent opportunity? Naturally, no one would dare to pursue the matter of them killing the second prince. The royal clan of Qiyun could only acknowledge this. In Qiyun, the authority of the Ouyang aristocrat clan far surpassed that of the imperial clan. Nobody dared to disobey their words. This time around, the reason I came to Qiyun is to select a batch of outstanding youths to join the Ouyang aristocrat clan. As members of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, if their performance is outstanding in the future, as long as you are willing, you can be bestowed the surname Ouyang and become a member of the Ouyang aristocrat clan. That old man swept his gaze over to Qin Wentian and the rest, before finally landing on the 2 princes. You will be in charge of this matter. I will remain at the Gazing Dragon Mountain Rampart for 7 days. If there are any outstanding individuals who are willing, tell them to come and see me. I will personally assess them. The eyes of the 2 princes flickered. The Ouyang aristocrat clan would often make a trip to Qiyun to recruit members of other clans. But this year, it seemed that the recruitment was brought forward. However, this wasn't something they needed to consider. Yes, senior. We will return to the royal capital to prepare. The two princes respectfully nodded. After the arrival of the three from the Ouyang aristocrat clan, it was as though the grudge between them and Qin Wentian had been erased, as though it had been forgotten by the divine inscriptions. "Uncle Wang, why don't you follow us back to the royal capital?" One of the princes coldly spoke to King Yi. Regarding the death of the second prince, there was no way to find trouble with Qin Wentian. However, King Yi still had to take responsibility. King Yi's countenance was incredibly ugly to behold, but he still nodded his head. Qin Wentian, Fan Lu, and the rest were all dumbfounded. Why was it that after the arrival of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, there was nothing else for them to do? Such a situation made them feel that it was extremely funny. Lightly shaking his head, Qin Wentian glanced at Fan Lu and Chu Mang as he shrugged. 7 days later, shall we depart for the Azure continent? Sure. Fan Lu nodded, as though he didn't mind at all. I'll listen to you. Chu Mang also agreed. Since the second prince had died, King Yi would be handled by the royal clan. He believed that King Yi wouldn't have an easy time. As for the appearance of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, it actually saved them some trouble. Even if the Ouyang aristocrat clan wanted them to head to the Ouyang aristocrat clan, they might as well make a trip there. Just in time, they could go and see how that fellow Ouyang Quangshan was doing. That place was after all his territory. As for this arrogant young man and woman in front of them, since they were sent out to run errands, their status in the Ouyang aristocrat clan shouldn't be too high. Most probably, they only wanted to show off their lofty status in front of the people of Qiyun. Qin Wentian's guess wasn't wrong. As a transcendent power, the Ouyang aristocrat clan had an extremely large population, and the hierarchy was extremely strict. The core members of the Ouyang aristocrat clan were naturally the direct line of descent, followed by the various branch families, and finally those who were bestowed the surname Ouyang. As for those with the lowest status, they were those who had just joined the Ouyang aristocrat clan and had yet to prove themselves. If one didn't have an extremely dazzling talent, it would be exceedingly difficult for them to climb up the ladder. The young man and woman were people bestowed the surname Ouyang by the Ouyang aristocrat clan. Hence, when they were sent out, they had to listen to the faces of many people in the Ouyang aristocrat clan. But when they arrived at Qiyun, they were considered to be extremely lofty characters. The commotion caused by Qin Wentian came and went quickly. With the arrival of the people from the Ouyang aristocrat clan, the commotion disappeared without a trace. The crowd didn't even dare to mention it. The young man and woman from the Ouyang aristocrat clan started to meditate on the gazing dragon mountain rampart. As for the examination, that old man would be in charge of it. During these 7 days, they managed to recruit quite a few people, including 13, who had always been at the gazing dragon mountain rampart. During these 7 days, Qin Wentian and the other 2 also quietly meditated on the gazing dragon mountain rampart, quietly cultivating. After sending Yi Shi off, they naturally couldn't be bothered with the matters of Qiyun. As for the arrogant attitude of the 2 young men from the Ouyang aristocrat clan, they couldn't be bothered with such a small matter. Could it be that they wanted to intentionally display their strength and talent in front of them? Let's move out. At this moment, 9 silhouettes gathered in front of the gazing dragon mountain rampart. Other than Qin Wentian's group, the 3 from the Ouyang aristocrat clan, there was also 13, the 3rd prince of Qiyun, and another young man. The 9 of them soared into the air and departed, causing many in the crowd to cast envious gazes at them. The Ouyang aristocrat clan was a transcendent power. Young Master Ouyang, Miss Ouyang, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to properly entertain you when you arrived in Qiyun. In the future, when we enter the Ouyang aristocrat clan, please guide me along. The 3rd prince of Qiyun took out 2 interspatial rings and passed them to the 2 young men from the Ouyang aristocrat clan. His way of doing things was extremely slick, as expected of a prince. The 2 of them casually accepted the interspatial rings. The young woman was still as cold as ever, but the young man had a faint smile on his face. Yemo, the experts of the Ouyang aristocrat clan are as common as the clouds, and there are also many outstanding youths among them. It won't be easy to gain recognition from them. After you enter the Ouyang aristocrat clan, I will introduce you to some elders of the clan. You can pay your respects to them one by one, and it would be best if you could find one of them to accept you as a disciple. Many thanks for Brother Ouyang's guidance. A radiant smile appeared on Yimo's face, as the two of them chatted happily. The Azure Continent, like the Moon Continent, was one of the 9 continents of Grand Xia. Upon entering the city, one could see the streets of the 9 dragons, divided into 9 different directions, resembling 9 dragon veins that meandered towards the 9 directions of the Azure Continent. The Ouyang aristocrat clan was a transcendent power of the Azure Continent, and they were actually built right next to the city. Numerous majestic palaces stood tall within the city, resembling a city in the sky. The highest point of the palaces was 3,000 meters tall, and the entire place was majestic and majestic. Qin Wentian and the rest soared through the air, and the instant they saw the Ouyang aristocrat clan, they couldn't help but feel shocked in their hearts. Looking down from the air at the Ouyang aristocrat clan, the impact was too great. Each and every one of the majestic palaces had a clear hierarchy to them, and this castle was countless times larger compared to the royal palaces of small countries. Even the 2 young men from the Ouyang aristocrat clan couldn't help but feel their hearts surging with emotions every time they saw such a scene. When would they be able to stand at the highest point, overlooking the entire Azure Continent? Sadly, that was only a dream. So this is the Ouyang aristocrat clan. A faint smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he stared at the majestic Ouyang aristocrat clan in front of him. That fellow Ouyang Guangsheng's will was extremely firm, and he only stepped onto the path of cultivation when he was able to condense an astral soul from the 4th heavenly layer. He ignored the looks of disdain from others, and now, after such a long period of time had passed, Qin Wentian couldn't help but wonder what cultivation realm Ouyang Guangsheng had reached. Based on the conditions of his clan, countless resources, and the guidance of experts, he definitely wouldn't be slow. Let's go. The Heavenly Dipper's sovereign in the lead indifferently spoke, as the group of them continued towards the castle of the Ouyang aristocrat clan. Stepping into the Ouyang aristocrat clan, a different kind of feeling filled their hearts. Following the meandering pathway, they arrived at a gigantic drill ground. In front of them, there were 2 people currently engaged in battle, but the battle was already nearing its end. A young lady clad in a gown the color of the sun directly sent a young man flying through the air. The young man stood up and laughed, "Miss Ting, you're awesome." The young lady didn't reply. She mounted a steed that seemed to be engulfed in flames as she galloped towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian discovered that the Heavenly Dipper sovereign and the 2 young men from the Ouyang aristocrat clan actually bowed slightly, as expressions of respect could be seen on their faces as they greeted, "Miss Ting." These few people were extremely arrogant in Qiyun, and yet at this moment, they were actually bowing as though they were servants. This caused Qin Wentian and the rest to be extremely bewildered. "Are these the people you found this time around?" The young lady sat on the flaming steed, as her voice was calm and emotionless. "Miss Ting, there are a few people whose combat prowess isn't too bad. That's why I summoned them. At the same time, their cultivation bases are similar to Miss Ting's, and they can accompany Miss Ting in your training." The young man at the side pointed to Qin Wentian and Fan Lu as he spoke, but he didn't mention the 3rd prince of Qin Wentian. It was unknown if this was intentional or not. Chapter 307. Qin Wentian couldn't help but have a strange expression on his face when he heard her words. Tempering trial. Inclining his gaze, Qin Wentian contemplated this young lady who was akin to the blazing sun. She, who was born of nobility, exuded an innate sense of pride and nobility, as though she was an unreachable princess. Her fair skin and beautiful countenance all served to accentuate her nobility. Such an aura was somewhat similar to that of Ouyang Guangsheng. Yang Fan was the same as well. The young lady was around 18 or 19 years of age, with a cultivation base at the 5th level of Yuanfu. She exuded a sense of youthfulness, yet the arrogance in her eyes caused others to feel a sense of distance. Even her mount, the Crimson Steed, had a pair of extraordinary wings. Evidently, her status in the Ouyang aristocrat clan wasn't something the others around him could compare to. However, what was a tempering trial? Was it to temper the combat prowess of this young lady, to help her train? Earlier, when the young man was injured, he still had a fawning smile on his face. From this, one could see how common this was in the transcendent powers. Maybe there were some who felt that there was no dignity at all, and might as well not join the Ouyang aristocrat clan. However, there were also many who risked their lives, wanting to join the Ouyang aristocrat clan. As for the young man and woman beside him, just because they were bestowed the surname Ouyang, they could look down on the royal clan of Qiyun. Didn't the princes of Qiyun also yearn to join the Ouyang aristocrat clan? This caused Qin Wentian to involuntarily recall the geniuses of Chu. How glorious was Luo Qianqiu simply because he was a member of the Nine Mystical Palace. And for demon-level characters like Chu Tianjiao and Xikong Mingyue, which of them didn't want to be part of the Nine Mystical Palace? But the moment they entered the Nine Mystical Palace, their statuses would no longer be the same as they were back in Chu. This was how the path of cultivation was. Swish. Abruptly, a crimson long whip lashed out. Qin Wentian's eyes narrowed, only to see the long whip lashing out beside him. Fan Li's silhouette flickered as he dodged it. Peng, the long whip landed on the ground. The young lady cast a glance at Fan Lu, who had already retreated to the side. She then coldly stated, "If you dare to look at me again in the future, be careful of your eyes. Tomorrow, bring them here to wait for me." After speaking, she lashed out with her whip, causing the steed she was sitting on to soar into the skies, galloping away. Fan Li's eyes narrowed. Although this maiden was extremely beautiful, he had already restrained himself. If it was in the past when he saw such a beauty, he wouldn't have bothered to conceal his gaze. However, he knew that this place was no ordinary place. He had only casually glanced at her face, as well as the scenery below her neck, yet he had almost been whipped. What a bad temper! Fan Lu murmured. The others beside him furrowed their brows. Usually, when they met young masters and misses of the direct line of descent, they would lower their heads when speaking, not daring to look at each other. How would they dare to be as rude as Fan Lu? Shut up! The female beside him berated. She frowned. This place is the Ouyang aristocrat clan, no matter who you are, you better watch your words. You were brought here by us, if anything were to happen to you, all of us would be implicated. If you don't like it, I can leave by myself. Fan Lu turned and stared at the female as he coldly stated. You. The female stared at Fan Lu. Both of them stared at each other, while the young man frowned as a look of unhappiness flashed in his eyes. You guys better talk to them about the rules. The Heavenly Dipper sovereign swept a glance at them before flicking his sleeves and departing the area. Since you're already here, there's no need for you to say such words again. The young man indifferently stated as he lifted his foot, all of you, follow me. Qin Wentian patted Fan Lu on his shoulders, indicating that there was no need for him to be angry. Fan Lu shrugged and didn't say anything more. Miss Ting is a direct descendant of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, and her status is extremely high. As for her exact identity, it's not something you guys can know. Miss Ting is diligent in her cultivation, and loves to spar with others. To you guys, this is a good opportunity. As long as you are valued by Miss Ting, you will have a chance to be bestowed the surname Ouyang, enjoying the same status as me. The young man calmly continued, however, there's one thing you guys have to remember. When Miss Ting sparred with you guys, you have to give it your all. If you can force Miss Ting to use her full strength, she would naturally be satisfied. But remember, you are not allowed to injure her in the slightest. As for the ending of the battle, you guys better think about it carefully. The hint of this young man was extremely clear. Even if they could win, it would be best if they were defeated. Such a good opportunity, why don't you give it to them? Fan Lu stared at Yi Mo and 13 as he indifferently asked. I only gave you guys this opportunity because I heard that your combat prowess is extremely high. Don't be so ungrateful, and now that Miss Ting has already chosen the two of you, how can you go back on your words? The young man coldly replied as he brought them to a residential area. The courtyards here were densely packed, and there were many people here. It couldn't be compared to the grand halls and pavilions in their vision. Not only that, there were many people here, and all of them were young men. In this region, strength speaks loudest. The three of you, go and find your own residences. The young man spoke to Qin Wentian and the others, before turning to the third prince and the others, follow me. After which, the young man departed, leaving Qin Wentian and the others behind. Where are we going? Fan Lu unhappily asked. Let's go for a walk. Qin Wentian carried little rascal in his arms as the three of them headed towards the outer region. However, not long after, Qin Wentian and Fan Lu exchanged glances as they halted their steps and turned back. There was actually someone spying on them in the shadows. Qin Wentian's perception swept out, and he discovered that the courtyards here were already occupied. It was basically overcrowded. It seemed like the other party had an ulterior motive for placing them here. Newcomers? A round-faced young man passed by, and upon seeing Qin Wentian and the others hesitating, he involuntarily halted his steps and asked. Amicham, can I ask you some questions? Qin Wentian nodded his head. Sure. The young man walked to the grass patch and sat down, smiling as he stared at Qin Wentian and the others. In the future, we might be competitors. What do you mean? Fan Lu asked. Don't you guys know the rules? There are countless people who wish to enter the Ouyang aristocrat clan, and not everyone has the chance to do so just by coming here. For those who come here, they would be separated into groups, and after a period of time, a batch of people would be eliminated. It's extremely cruel, and only those who pass the tests would be able to be bestowed the surname Ouyang. The round-faced young man explained. Just for the sake of being bestowed the surname Ouyang, I'm willing to forsake my own surname. Chu Mang asked. Bestowing the surname Ouyang doesn't mean that you have to forsake your original surname. It's just a symbol of your status, signifying that you have stepped into the Ouyang aristocrat clan. From now on, you would be able to see better cultivation arts, innate techniques, secret arts, cultivation experiences, and even guidance from experts. In fact, if you are valued by others, you might even be able to enter the tutelage of an expert and become a core member of the Ouyang aristocrat clan. The round-faced young man laughed as he continued, those who come here are all extraordinary geniuses. Don't they all want to strive for the higher realms? The Ouyang aristocrat clan already has heavens chosen, although they don't have the bloodline of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, they have already completely assimilated into the Ouyang aristocrat clan. Naturally, if you really can't do it, you can only silently leave. The Ouyang aristocrat clan doesn't force people to stay, and I can leave whenever I want. Qin Wentian asked. Naturally, for those who come here, who wouldn't want to have a bright future? Why would the Ouyang aristocrat clan want to force you? Before you become a core member of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, nobody would care whether you stay or leave. The round-faced young man laughed, his words causing Qin Wentian to furrow his brows. Upon seeing this scene, the round-faced young man curiously asked, could it be that you guys forced me to come here? How interesting. Do you know of Miss Ting? Qin Wentian asked again, causing the eyes of the round-faced young man to brighten. After which, he glanced to the left and right before replying in a low voice to Qin Wentian, this maiden has an extremely high status in the Ouyang aristocrat clan. She's extremely unruly and willful, and loves to find people to spar with her. Those whom she finds to spar with would all end up in a miserable state. If their strength is too low, they would be humiliated or even heavily injured before leaving. If their strength is too high, you might be able to defeat her, but you wouldn't dare to do so. Anger? Qin Wentian continued asking, only to see the round-faced young man waving his hands. Evidently, he didn't intend to continue the conversation. He continued in a low voice, just be careful when you hear this, and don't reveal this to anyone else. Pray for your own good. The round-faced young man stared at Qin Wentian and the rest with a look of pity in his eyes. His words caused Qin Wentian and Fan Li's eyes to flicker with a cold light. It seemed like the young man who brought them here had done this intentionally. Are you acquainted with Ouyang Guangsheng? Qin Wentian didn't continue asking about Ouyang Ting. How could I possibly be acquainted with him? But naturally, I've heard of him before. Ouyang Guangsheng is a direct descendant of the Ouyang aristocrat clan and is already a heaven's chosen. It's only a matter of time before he becomes the next clan leader. I've heard that his personality is unrestrained and unrestrained, but sadly, I've been here for half a year and have yet to meet him. Qin Wentian had a bitter smile on his face. He initially wanted to come to the Ouyang aristocrat clan to meet up with his friends, but who would have thought that the Ouyang aristocrat clan was as deep as the ocean? Even if he wanted to meet up with them, it would be extremely difficult. However, he was naturally happy to hear that Ouyang Guangsheng had such a high status in the Ouyang aristocrat clan. Can you help us find a place to stay? Qin Wentian laughed. Why did you guys offend people the moment you arrived? Why don't you stay in my courtyard for the time being? The round-faced young man was extremely easy to talk to. Qin Wentian and the other two naturally nodded their heads in agreement. After which, Qin Wentian and the rest attempted to leave the Ouyang aristocrat clan, but just as they were about to step out, they were intercepted by someone. Why? You can't even leave. Fan Li coldly stared at the person in front of him. The round-faced young man had told them before that before one became a core member of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, the Ouyang aristocrat clan wouldn't restrict anyone from leaving. You guys can't leave temporarily. The person who intercepted them coldly replied. Qin Wentian frowned as he asked in a low voice, why? I heard that Miss Ting will be looking for you guys for a tempering exercise tomorrow. That person directly replied. In that case, when can we have our freedom? Qin Wentian's voice grew even colder. Miss Ting doesn't need to wait until after the tempering exercise. The other party coldly replied. Qin Wentian fell silent for a moment before he turned and departed. A cold light flickered in his eyes, he had truly offended someone for no reason. But the problem was, he didn't even know how he had offended them. As for the tempering exercise? Let's do it then. Indeed, on the morning of the second day, the young man and woman who had brought them to the Ouyang aristocrat clan yesterday led them to the training grounds. Qin Wentian discovered that other than them, there were actually a few others who had arrived at the training grounds. From afar, in the depths of the castle, a fiery steed appeared. Not only did Ouyang Ting appear, she brought along several members of the Ouyang aristocrat clan with her. These people all exuded an extraordinary aura, indicating that their statuses were extremely lofty. The guards on the training grounds all bowed slightly, while the silhouettes in the air laughed and chatted as they approached. Ouyang Ting indifferently stated, I've been so bored these past few days, there aren't many with strong combat prowess. I'm afraid that you guys can't watch me make a fool out of myself anymore. We don't have the mood to watch you make a fool out of yourself. Recently, Ouyang Guangsheng's cultivation speed is getting faster and faster. If this continues, I'm afraid we'll all be left in the dust. A young lady beside Ouyang Ting frowned. He's older than us, what's so great about him? Ouyang Ting coldly snorted, as though she was unhappy. However, a hint of trepidation could be seen in her beautiful eyes. In the Ouyang aristocrat clan, that madman was one of the few people she didn't dare to antagonize. Chapter 308. The fiery steeds landed on the ground, as three beautiful maidens landed on the drill grounds. There was also a young man accompanying them. The people around them all bowed slightly, not daring to look them in the eye. Fan Li's eyes brightened, thinking that these maidens from the aristocratic clans really had an air of elegance and beauty to them. Ouyang Ting stood in the middle of the drill grounds, casually glancing at the others as she spoke, all of you, come up first. The two of you, go up. The young man who brought Qin Wentian to the Ouyang aristocrat clan urged. Qin Wentian and Fan Li's countenances were as calm as ever, as they walked forward. There were 6 others who walked shoulder to shoulder with them, and they were all the more unfortunate ones. The rest of you, eliminate 4. Those who are too weak won't have the qualifications to spar against me, Ouyang Ting coldly stated. Momentarily, the 8 of them exchanged glances. The cultivation bases of these people were all at the 5th level of Yuanfu. Ouyang Ting herself was also at the 5th level of Yuanfu. Bzzz, the others released their astral souls, as though intending to show off their prowess in front of these young maidens. To them, wasn't this a good opportunity to display their prowess? Not bad, they should all have their 3rd astral souls, and 2 of them originated from the 4th heavenly layer. How rare. A young maiden beside Ouyang Ting had a faint smile on her face. Their 3rd astral soul originated from the 4th heavenly layer was already sufficient to amplify their strength. That's the Skyflame Demonic Lion astral soul. Although it's ranked at the bottom of the War Beast Index, it's already extremely powerful. Ting these people aren't bad at all. The green-robed maiden had an expression of astonishment on her face. The other person's astral soul was also not bad, possessing an ice-attributed astral soul. If that was the case, not only would his astral soul be bestowed with the characteristics of demonic beasts, he would also be bestowed with an innate talent of ice. The corners of Ouyang Ting's lips curled up. Ever since she broke through to the 5th level of Yuanfu, she was even more diligent in searching for talented geniuses to join her Ouyang aristocrat clan. The other 4 didn't dare to antagonize the 2 of them, and 2 of them directly fought against each other. The other 2 glanced at each other, feeling that they wouldn't be easy to deal with. Hence, they turned their gazes to Qin Wentian and Fan Li. These 2 fellows were even younger than them. Not only that, they didn't even release their astral souls. Hey, don't provoke me. Fan Li couldn't help but ask in a low voice when he saw the 2 of them staring at him and Qin Wentian. However, in the eyes of his opponents, his words were seen as a sign of weakness. Immediately, one of them dashed towards Fan Li with a blazing long spear in his hands, as the mandate of fire permeated the air. Boom! Fan Li's astral souls erupted forth. His 3rd astral soul was also from the 4th heavenly layer. The terrifying heat caused the pupils of his opponent to contract, but the flaming long spear had already shot out. The spear was like a dragon, whistling through the air as the tip of the spear glowed with a resplendent fiery light. Fan Li instantly retreated as he took out his astral bow. His astral bow was engulfed in raging flames as the arrow pierced through the air. His opponent's spear was also extremely sharp. His movements were impenetrable, and his spear techniques were exquisite. However, he only saw 2 arrows flying above him. Then, they suddenly changed direction, and rapidly pierced towards his head. His countenance drastically changed as he pierced out with his long spear. His body soared up into the air as a surge of terrifying heat gushed forth, only to see the arrows appearing in front of him. An expression of desolation flashed in his eyes, he had been completely defeated. On the other side, the battle ended even faster. The remaining person launched an attack at Qin Wentian, but Qin Wentian merely slammed out with a palm strike, sending his opponent flying through the air. His strength was so overwhelming that he was like a demonic beast, even without the aid of his astral souls, he still had an absolute advantage. In addition to the mandate of force, he didn't even need to use his full strength to suppress opponents at the same level as him. The astral energy in Qin Wentian's body was at the 5th heavenly layer, and was already extremely violent in nature. In addition to the fiend transformation art, which granted him a tyrannical physique as well as the strength of his fleshly body, he was akin to a demonic beast. He didn't even need to use his astral souls to gain an absolute advantage. As for the remaining 4, there was no suspense at all. Qin Wentian, Fan Li, and the other 2 with astral souls originating from the 4th heavenly layer. Not bad, the 4 of them are not bad. The young lady beside Ouyang Ting laughed. Ouyang Ting stepped out, pointing to the ice-type demonic beast, as she stated, "You first." "Fine, I hope Miss will show some mercy." The young man clasped his hands as he walked out. Don't worry, I won't injure you too heavily. But of course, if you are too weak, I won't be so polite. Ouyang Ting continued, make your move. The silhouette of the young man flickered as he instantly lunged towards Ouyang Ting, punching out with his fist as an overwhelming surge of energy erupted forth. Too weak. Ouyang Ting coldly stated, releasing her will of the mandate of sword in the air. At the same time, the young man felt as though his entire body was being restrained. This was another type of mandate, binding. The temperature in the air abruptly dropped by several degrees. The young man also released his will of mandate, as his fist was imbued with the mandate of ice, causing Ouyang Ting's entire body to be covered in frost. Still not enough. Ouyang Ting's voice rang out, as she waved her palms. Instantly, countless whip shadows appeared, howling with rage. Swish, 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 the whizzing whip shadows abruptly transformed into incomparably sharp swords, madly piercing towards the fist of the young man. Ice crystals danced in the air as they shattered. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered. Although this Ouyang Ting was unruly, her strength wasn't bad at all. Her whip shadows transformed into sharp swords, enveloping the entire space. Not only that, it contained the will of the mandate of sword and the mandate of binding, it was a completely suppressive attack. Another one. Instantly, Ouyang Ting suppressed her opponent to the point where he couldn't even attack. The expert with the Skyflame demonic lion astral soul rushed out, his aura becoming even more violent. He had comprehended the mandate of demons, demonification, as well as the mandate of fire. In an instant, raging flames rose up to the skies, and when the two of them joined forces to attack, the tyrannical chi they exuded was terrifying to the extreme. Yet, every lash of Ouyang Ting's whip was as sharp as a sword, and every attack was like an innate technique. This innate technique was a fusion of both whip techniques and sword techniques, each strike stronger than the one before it. At the very end, the whip shadows engulfed the entire space as sword chi howled, enveloping the entire space. Peng, peng, two crisp sounds rang out. Qin Wentian saw the two of them being flung through the air, fresh blood seeping out from the corners of their mouths. They stood up, and their gazes were filled with admiration as they stared at Ouyang Ting. Not only did this beautiful young lady have a noble status, her combat prowess far surpassed theirs as well. Barely passable. In the future, the two of you will stay together and work hard to improve your strength. You can practice your joint attacks, and I'll look for you two anytime. Ouyang Ting indifferently spoke, her tone was like a command. Yes. The two of them nodded as they bowed and retreated. The two of you, come at me as well. Ouyang Ting spoke to Qin Wentian and Fan Lu, her words causing Qin Wentian and Fan Lu to be stunned. Fatty Fan Lu shrugged his shoulders. With his combat prowess, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone at the same level as him. As for Qin Wentian, with his current combat prowess, he could insta-kill anyone at the same level as him. This lass really knew how to boast shamelessly. It's not good for two of us to injure you. One of us will suffice. Miss Ting, who do you wish to fight against? Fan Lu laughed. Boasting shamelessly, injuring me is your capability. But since you are so arrogant, let me teach you a lesson first. Ouyang Ting coldly spoke to Fan Lu, as she prepared herself for battle. Qin Wentian retreated, giving up his position. Fan Li's Arrow-type Astral Soul and Fire-type Astral Soul were released, as the Astral Bow and Astral Bow glowed with a resplendent light. Ouyang Ting's silhouette dashed out, and at the same instant, Fan Li's arrows whistled through the air. Ouyang Ting's palms slashed out as a whip appeared in the air, enveloping her, impenetrable by wind and rain. The arrows rained down unceasingly, yet they had no way to break through Fan Li's defense. Humph! Ouyang Ting instantly closed the distance. With a cold laugh, she lashed out with her whip. Fan Lu only felt his body being suppressed, unable to move. However, he didn't move, he only stared ahead. Rumble, the terrifying power of the Empyrean Flame's bloodline erupted forth. Both of Fan Li's eyes shone with a terrifying golden light as golden flames appeared on the surface of his arrows. 9 arrows shot out in a row, forming a straight line as they shot out explosively. In that instant, the 9 arrows transformed into a single arrow. The power of the Empyrean Flames bloodline, as well as the power of the Empyrean Flames bloodline. Ouyang Ting sensed that something was wrong. She wanted to strike down with her whip, yet she discovered that the power of the Empyrean Flames bloodline had caused her to lose control of her whip, causing it to be slower than usual. That instant of delay was sufficient for the arrow to strike through the gap between her and the Empyrean Flames bloodline. Fan Li's arrows were too fast, too ferocious, and too crafty. Careful! Someone behind her shouted. Ouyang Ting's astral soul instantly erupted forth, as a layer of astral light appeared around her. At the same time, a layer of astral light appeared around her. Bzzz, the arrow instantly pierced through Ouyang Ting's throat, as the terrifying shockwave blasted against her body. However, the arrow merely floated in the air, causing the spectators to break out in cold sweat. Fan Li laughed, "Miss Ting, I know what I'm doing." The space froze for a moment, as Ouyang Ting's countenance turned pale. Earlier, Fan Li's attack was simply too powerful. She had never encountered such an attack before, and she was caught off guard. She felt as though doomsday had arrived, as though her heart was about to leap out of her chest. Her robes were soaked with sweat, and she felt extremely uncomfortable. Chi! All of a sudden, Ouyang Ting moved. The long whip in her hand lashed out, causing Fan Li's countenance to drastically change. However, the distance between them wasn't far, and Fan Li was under the effect of the Empyrean Flames bloodline. Peng, a crisp sound rang out. Although Fan Li had dodged that terrifying attack, he was still struck by the long whip. The robes on his arm were torn apart, and a bloody wound instantly appeared on his arm. If it weren't for his quick reflexes, he would have been in an even more miserable state. "What are you doing?" Fan Li was instantly enraged. Although he loved beauties, Ouyang Ting's unruly behavior was simply too ridiculous. Not long ago, she had said that she had the ability to injure him, and now, she actually dared to launch a sneak attack. Since this was a sparring session, how could there be no danger at all? Ouyang Ting had told them to attack with all their might, and he had done so. Not only that, he didn't even manage to injure Ouyang Ting. "You are courting death." The young man and the 2 young ladies behind him stepped forward, their countenances ice-cold. "Bastard!" Below, the young man and woman who had brought Qin Wentian and Fan Li to the Ouyang aristocrat clan also emitted a cold aura. Qin Wentian's countenance had already turned cold the instant Fan Li was struck by the whip. Now that he saw the scene unfolding before him, he couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. Was this the so-called tempering exercise? "Break one of his arms," Ouyang Ting coldly commanded. Instantly, the ice-cold intent radiating from Qin Wentian and Fan Li grew even more intense. Chapter 309. Chu Mang was similarly enraged when he heard Ouyang Ting's words. A terrifying aura erupted forth from his body. What did Fan Li do? He wanted to sever one of his arms. A raging wind gusted by, only to see the young man and woman who brought Qin Wentian to the Ouyang aristocrat clan, as well as the 3rd prince, Yi Mo, instantly surrounded Fan Li. As for Qin Wentian and Chu Mang, they moved to the left and right of Fan Li. Momentarily, the atmosphere was filled with an oppressive pressure. Of course, to Ouyang Ting, it couldn't be considered as oppressive at all. Back when she was training with others, she had never been frightened like this before. In a moment of anger, she had wanted to break Fan Li's arm to vent her anger. She didn't feel anything strange about it, nor did she feel any guilt in her heart. This was an extremely minor matter to her. "Are you all right?" The young man and woman who came with her asked with concern. Ouyang Ting lightly shook her head, as the others all stared at Fan Li with cold gazes. "Miss Ting." A voice drifted over. Ouyang Ting turned her gaze onto Qin Wentian, only to hear Qin Wentian saying, "You are the one who asked my friend to do his best. Please take back your words and apologize to my friend." Ouyang Ting's eyes flashed with a cold light when she heard Qin Wentian's tone. "Who are you? What qualifications do you have to speak to me in this manner? If you don't scram, I will sever one of your arms as well." How laughable. You made us come here to temper ourselves, yet you're not allowed to win. Even with your personality, you still want to become stronger. If we were outside, I don't know how many of you would have died. Qin Wentian's countenance turned ice cold. His words undoubtedly caused Ouyang Ting to feel extremely embarrassed. Sever one of his arms as well. You slut. Chu Mang angrily berated. Ouyang Ting's countenance turned ashen. This was the first time she was humiliated in front of so many people in the Ouyang clan. Kill him. Ouyang Ting howled in rage. Qin Wentian's aura erupted forth, no longer concealing it. The reason he came to the Ouyang aristocrat clan was because he wanted to meet with Ouyang Guangsheng. However, he also knew that it wouldn't be so easy to meet with Ouyang Guangsheng. In such a large clan, he was even restricted from stepping out of his room, let alone meeting with an important character from the direct line of descent. However, the two of them were still friends after all. Qin Wentian wasn't clear about the relationship between Ouyang Guangsheng and Ouyang Ting. Maybe, they might even be brother and sister. Naturally, he didn't want to make things too awkward between them. Not only that, he had just arrived at the Azure continent from the Moon continent, he didn't want to leave again. I'm acquainted with Ouyang Guangsheng. This is the last time I'd like you to take back your words and apologize. Qin Wentian said coldly when he saw the crowd approaching. His words caused the footsteps of the crowd to falter. Ouyang Ting's gaze was once again fixed on Qin Wentian. Those beside Ouyang Ting hesitated for a moment. Qin Wentian was acquainted with Ouyang Guangsheng. This guy probably said that to save his life. What a joke. In the entire Azure continent, because of his status and personality, Qin Wentian didn't have many friends. The person in front of him was so young, and the aura he exuded was only at the 5th level of Yuanfu, yet he said that he was acquainted with Ouyang Guangsheng. Even if you are acquainted with him, the three of you will have to suffer my wrath today. Attack! Ouyang Ting coldly stated. As the sound of her voice faded, the three behind her acted at the same time, while those beside her also stood guard. The guards from afar also rushed over when they saw the situation. From the looks of things, it seemed that Qin Wentian and his companions wouldn't be able to escape even if they had wings. Of the three who attacked Qin Wentian, the young man who brought them here had a cultivation base at the 7th level of Yuanfu, the young woman had a cultivation base at the 6th level, and the third prince had a cultivation base at the 5th level of Yuanfu. The first two had the surname Ouyang, which meant that their strength wasn't bad at all. Scram! Chu Mang took out his great axe, and with a howl of rage, he slashed out towards the young man. Qin Wentian clashed with the third prince, while the young woman stabbed her short sword towards Qin Wentian. What made them surprised was that none of Ouyang Ting's companions acted. They only stood there coldly, watching on. This caused the countenance of the third prince, Yi Mo, to stiffen. Fan Li's strength was extremely powerful, and the reason he acted was naturally because he wanted to put on a good show. However, he didn't expect that his opponents would actually stand there and watch on. At the instant the young woman's short sword stabbed towards Qin Wentian, an overwhelming demonic qi gushed forth from Qin Wentian. His eyes flickered, and in an instant, the young woman felt a piercing pain in her head, as a terrifying pressure bore down on her. Rumble, Qin Wentian's palms blasted out as the will of his mandate of strength erupted forth. Upon seeing Qin Wentian's actions, a cold smile flickered in the eyes of the young woman. Using his palms to block her short sword. Although Qin Wentian's aura was incomparably tyrannical, wasn't he a little too arrogant? However, at this moment, Qin Wentian's palms were covered with terrifying scales, akin to that of an ancient demonic beast. Peng! The terrifying might of the collision instantly sent the young woman flying through the air. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a cold light as he flicked his finger at Yemo. Yemo was still defending against Fan Li's attack, but when he turned his head back, his countenance drastically changed. A piercing sound rang out as the golden arrow penetrated through his head, instantly killing him. Qin Wentian turned, his eyes cold as he stared at Ouyang Ting and the others. Taking a step forward, a thunderous boom echoed out as a terrifying aura gushed forth. His demonic qi towered up into the skies, and when his cold eyes landed on Ouyang Ting actually felt a chill run down her spine. Your strength isn't bad. The young man beside Ouyang Ting took a step forward. His cultivation base was at the 7th level of Yuanfu, and when he stared at Qin Wentian, a look of disdain could be seen in his eyes. It was as though he was looking down at an ant. But, what a pity. The young man faintly spoke. A few of his guards dashed towards Qin Wentian and the others. Although these young ladies and young masters were all very strong, and there was no need for them to worry about them, they still had to do something. Bzzz. A pair of Garuda wings abruptly appeared behind Qin Wentian's back. His silhouette flickered as he lunged towards Ouyang Ting. That young man coldly laughed as he blocked Qin Wentian's path. His astral soul erupted forth as a black-colored, destructive might manifested in his palms. Die! That young man, upon seeing Qin Wentian rushing towards him, blasted out a black-colored palm imprint. That tyrannical aura instantly transformed into a destructive might that shot towards Qin Wentian. The blood in Qin Wentian's body boiled, as though a demonic beast from the primordial era was awakening. His palms glowed with a blood-colored light as he abruptly blasted out a palm imprint, akin to the roar of a dragon. This palm imprint was an innate technique that Qin Wentian had comprehended in the Gazing Dragon Mountain Rampart. His entire arm was covered with draconic scales, and was filled with an explosive power. Not only that, this power was formed from divine energy. The two Ouyang ladies laughed coldly. This heart annihilation palm imprint was more than enough to reap Qin Wentian's life. However, at the instant the two attacks collided, the draconic imprint crushed everything in its path. The young man's countenance drastically changed as he hurriedly defended himself with his palms. With a thunderous boom, his body was flung through the air. How terrifying was Qin Wentian's explosive power! Regardless of which type of energy he used, it was all filled with explosive power. His strength was akin to that of a primordial desolate beast. Although his opponent was at the 7th level of Yuanfu, he had underestimated Qin Wentian and was instantly flung through the air. Not good. The countenances of the guards drastically changed when they saw this scene. Even the two maidens were dumbfounded. Ouyang Ting felt her entire body turning cold. She hurriedly retreated, only to see a piercing gaze piercing into her mind. It was as though she could see a terrifying beam of light erupting from the center of Qin Wentian's brows, causing her to close her eyes. When she opened them again, she only saw a silhouette growing larger and larger in her vision. A pair of ice-cold hands directly clutched at her throat. Ouyang Ting's breathing quickened as her countenance paled. Staring at the expression in Qin Wentian's eyes, she could only feel a chill running down her spine. Stop! The countenances of the spectators were all incredibly unsightly to behold. With so many experts present, Ouyang Ting was actually captured by a cultivator at the 5th level of Yuanfu. This was simply unforgivable. Naturally, nobody would have expected that Qin Wentian would dare to be so impudent in the Ouyang aristocrat clan. Not only that, his explosive power at the 5th level of Yuanfu was actually so terrifying. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over to the crowd. Go find Ouyang Quangsheng. I'll go immediately. A female silhouette flickered as she sped away, not daring to delay. At this moment, she felt that this person might really be acquainted with Ouyang Quangsheng. Release me first. Ouyang Ting held on to Qin Wentian's hands tightly. Qin Wentian coldly glanced at her before directly dragging her over to Fan Lu. Since you refuse to apologize, I'll have to help you, Qin Wentian coldly stated. Pang! Ouyang Ting's knees were directly forced down, forcing her to kneel in front of Fan Lo. This scene caused the spectators to not even dare to look at it. Madman, this fellow was a madman. He actually forced Ouyang Ting to kneel. The expressions of the young man and woman who brought Qin Wentian to the Ouyang aristocrat clan turned ashen. No matter what happened to Qin Wentian, the two of them wouldn't be able to escape responsibility. Do you know what you're doing? Ouyang Ting turned her head with great difficulty, glaring daggers at Qin Wentian. Miss Ouyang, if we weren't in the Ouyang aristocrat clan, based on your current behavior, I would have already killed you. Qin Wentian coldly stated. Qin Wentian wasn't a hot-headed person. In fact, he was already trying to control himself today. However, he knew that there was no way he could reason with Ouyang Ting here. Hence, he could only use such a method. The commotion here soon caused many experts to rush over. Originally, there weren't many experts in the drill grounds, and no one would have expected that such a thing would happen in the Ouyang aristocrat clan. These figures stood in the air, staring at the scene below. Their countenances were as sharp as blades as they stared at Qin Wentian. Release her. A white-robed figure exuding an extraordinary aura glared at Qin Wentian. Young man, do you know what you're doing? A voice drifted over from afar. After which, an old man walked over and glanced at Qin Wentian. Just a single glance from him caused Qin Wentian to feel immense pressure. My friend accompanied Ouyang Ting to temper himself and won. Ouyang Ting wanted to chop off his arm. I asked her to apologize, but she wanted to chop off one of my arms. Ouyang Ting, does she treat us as slaves? Senior, tell me, what should I do? Qin Wentian stared at the old man in the air. That old man had an unhappy expression on his face as he glanced at Ouyang Ting. Such an action was beneath his status. If she lost, so be it. She actually wanted to chop off someone's arm? Even your lives aren't enough to atone for her crime, let alone an arm. The white-robed young man exuded a cold intent. Seems like this kneel was too light. Qin Wentian glanced at the young man in the air. Exerting force in his palm, Ouyang Ting's head directly slammed into the ground. Instantly, a terrifying killing intent radiated from the young man. If my brother's arm is chopped off, even 10 of her lowly lives wouldn't be enough. Qin Wentian glanced at the young man in the air as he replied. Well said. Another group of silhouettes flew over, their words causing the hearts of the crowd to pound. Which damnable fellow actually dared to say such words? Wasn't that simply courting death? But when they saw who it was, their countenances all turned extremely fascinating. What was going on? A blue-robed young man with black hair fluttering in the wind coldly glanced at the crowd before shifting his gaze onto the old man. I've already heard of this matter. Given Ouyang Ting's conduct, she isn't fit to be a woman of my Ouyang clan. Her actions today are simply a humiliation to our Ouyang aristocrat clan. I suggest we kick her out of the Ouyang clan. Such arrogant words permeated the air, causing the hearts of countless people to perspire. There was more than one madman. Chapter 310. The voice of the blue-robed young man caused the entire space to fall silent. Qin Wentian inclined his head as a smile appeared on his face. When he mentioned Ouyang Quangsheng's name to Ouyang Ting, Ouyang Quangsheng still wanted to kill him. At that time, he already knew that the relationship between the two of them wasn't very good. If not, Ouyang Ting wouldn't have acted so decisively. Now that Ouyang Quangsheng had appeared, his personality was the same as the last 2 times he met him. Ouyang Ting, who was kneeling on the ground, lifted her head. There was still a trace of blood on her forehead, and her countenance was pale white. Staring at the descending figure, she coldly stated, Ouyang Quangsheng, the blood of the Ouyang aristocrat clan flows in my veins just like yours. Now that I'm being treated in such a manner by an outsider, you actually dare to spout such demented words. Are you even someone from the Ouyang aristocrat clan? The white-robed figure also stared at Ouyang Quangsheng as he coldly stated, Yang Guangsheng, you've gone too far." This white-robed young man was none other than a heavens chosen from the Ouyang aristocrat clan, Duan Qingshan. Ever since he entered the Ouyang aristocrat clan, he relied on his tyrannical talent to climb up the ranks step by step. Eventually, he was conferred the surname Ouyang, and was accepted as a disciple by an expert of the Ouyang aristocrat clan. Duan Qingshan was the target of many from the Ouyang aristocrat clan who didn't share the same surname as him. Hence, Duan Qingshan courted Ouyang Ting, hoping to borrow her strength to fully integrate into the Ouyang aristocrat clan. In fact, he might even be able to fight for the position of successor in the future. Because in Ouyang Ting's veins flowed the purest bloodline of the Ouyang aristocrat clan. Many in the Ouyang aristocrat clan thought highly of their union, especially those from Ouyang Ting's faction. But at this moment, there was actually an outsider who dared to treat Ouyang Ting in such a manner in the Ouyang aristocrat clan. What made people even more speechless was that Ouyang Guangsheng actually berated Ouyang Ting the moment he arrived. This caused many to feel that this was too surreal. This was too crazy. The bloodline of my Ouyang clan shouldn't have such a lowly person. As a descendant of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, if you win, it's your strength, but if you lose, you have to work hard. But if you lose, you have to break your opponent's arm. Furthermore, she was the one who found someone else to fight for her. Isn't this a humiliation to our Ouyang aristocrat clan? Could it be that you, Duan Qingshan, are proud of this? Ouyang Guangsheng stared at Duan Qingshan as he coldly stated, "Duan Qingshan, don't forget how you climbed step by step to reach where you are today. If the members of the Ouyang aristocrat clan were the same as Ouyang Ting, how many arms do you have to break just because you defeated them? If our Ouyang aristocrat clan has such an attitude, who would still dare to join us? How can an aristocrat clan grow stronger?" Duan Qingshan's expression turned ugly, but he didn't know how to refute. There was no need for them to discuss who was in the right and who was in the wrong. They only needed to know that since Qin Wentian treated Ouyang Ting in such a manner, he deserved to die without a burial ground. There was no need to say anything else, and nobody dared to say anything. However, Ouyang Guangsheng dared to do so, and he even used righteousness to suppress Qin Wentian. Not only that, given Ouyang Guangsheng's status, who would dare to say that his words were wrong? He, Duan Qingshan, had climbed his way up step by step. Just like what Ouyang Guangsheng had said, if the members of the Ouyang aristocrat clan were like Ouyang Ting, how could there be the Duan Qingshan of today? From afar, the sound of a gust of wind whistled over. The commotion caused by the commotion grew louder and louder, and several elders of the Ouyang aristocrat clan also arrived. "What's going on?" one of the elders asked, as he coldly swept his gaze over the crowd. "Second grandpa, Ouyang Ting challenged someone to a duel and was defeated. She wanted to sever the arm of her opponent, ruining the reputation of our Ouyang aristocrat clan. I suggest that we expel her from the Ouyang aristocrat clan," Ouyang Guangsheng calmly stated. "It's these people who were too impudent. Elder, you've seen it for yourself. They dared to treat Ting in such a manner, they deserve death," Duan Qingshan coldly stated. "Ridiculous. Could it be that they want to obediently allow Ouyang Ting to sever their arm? Who do you think they are?" Ouyang Guangsheng swept his gaze over to Duan Qingshan. "As long as you dare to say that they deserve to sever their arm, Ouyang Guangsheng will find an excuse to sever your arm." "Ouyang Guangsheng!" Duan Qingshan roared in rage. This Ouyang Guangsheng actually didn't give him any face at all. "These people, you dare to compare them to me?" Duan Qingshan's countenance turned ashen. "Enough," that elder berated. After which, he shifted his gaze onto the people below as he asked in a cold tone, "Who are these people? Who brought them here?" Below, the young man facing Chu Mang was trembling in fear, his countenance as pale as paper. He had asked Qin Wentian and Fan Lu to be Ouyang Ting's sparring partners. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that such a thing would happen. At this moment, he only knew that he was in for it. "Tell me the ins and outs of this matter clearly." The gaze of the second elder landed on him. Instantly, he felt a terrifying pressure bearing down on him. This matter concerns Ouyang Ting. You'd better tell me the truth. Duan Qingshan coldly stated. The words "tell the truth" were like a gigantic mountain pressing down on his back. He was thinking, what should he say? Let me tell you this as well. The person you brought here is my brother, Qin Wentian. We fought side by side together a few years ago. If you dare to speak a single lie, you'd better think about the consequences. Ouyang Quansheng pointed his finger at Qin Wentian as he spoke. That young man only felt his mind going blank, his countenance completely drained of blood. The hearts of the spectators all trembled. No wonder Ouyang Quansheng had such a huge reaction, wanting to expel Ouyang Ting. Ouyang Quansheng was actually acquainted with the person who wanted to deal with Ouyang Ting. Plop! The terrifying pressure caused the young man to directly kneel down. He didn't know what to say, his mind was in a state of chaos. He couldn't afford to offend either side. Duan Qingshan, a heavens chosen from the Ouyang aristocrat clan. Ouyang Quansheng dared to go against him and even threatened him. But as long as he said a single word, the consequences would be dire. Ouyang Quansheng, a descendant of the Ouyang aristocrat clan. How could he dare to offend him? Now, he couldn't even afford to offend Qin Wentian. Let me speak. You guys just need to ask if the two of them are true or not. Chu Mang stared at the crowd in the air, his expression indifferent. Fine, speak. The elder calmly replied. I'm good friends with Qin Wentian and the other two. We came out to roam the world together and coincidentally arrived at the Gazing Dragon Mountain in Qiyun. The two of them, along with a Heavenly Dipper sovereign, happened to be recruiting disciples in Qiyun. Chu Mang recounted the events that transpired from the Gazing Dragon Mountain. Upon hearing Chu Mang saying that his freedom was restricted and he couldn't even leave, and could only spar with Ouyang Ting, Ouyang Quansheng's countenance turned even colder. Is what he said true? The elder stared at the young man and woman as he icily asked. Junior knows his mistake. The young man didn't dare to lift his head. I understand. The elder understood that Chu Mang's words couldn't be wrong. He then continued, the two of you made things difficult for the newcomers, and even restricted their freedom. Although this was for Ouyang Ting's sake, I'm afraid that this is already a common occurrence in our Ouyang aristocrat clan. We need to reorganize ourselves, or our Ouyang aristocrat clan will soon decay. The two of you, sever one of your arms and leave the Ouyang aristocrat clan. The countenances of the young man and woman paled, but they still nodded their heads. They were doing this to curry favor with Ouyang Ting, but with the pressure from Ouyang Quansheng, Ouyang Ting was already in trouble, let alone them. With a howl of rage, they forcefully severed their left arm and bowed to the figure in the air before leaving the Ouyang aristocrat clan. A single wrong move had resulted in such a calamity. Release her first. The elder stared at Qin Wentian as he spoke. Qin Wentian nodded, releasing Ouyang Ting. Ouyang Ting stood up, coldly staring at Qin Wentian. However, the elder spoke, Ouyang Ting, it's fine for you to find someone to accompany you in the tempering grounds, as long as you and I are willing. Both of us are doing this for the sake of raising our strength, but you chose to use your status to bully others. Second grandpa, he was the one who almost killed me, Ouyang Ting explained. You weren't injured, right? The elder's eyes flashed with unhappiness. Sparring, what's the point if you don't want others to touch you? Based on your temperament, how can you achieve anything? Ouyang Ting's countenance stiffened. Ting knows her wrongs, I'll let second grandpa punish me however you like. But how should I deal with these people who treated me like this? Ouyang Ting, do you think they should let you sever your arm without resisting? Ouyang Quansheng coldly replied. Second grandpa, back then I fought shoulder to shoulder with Qin Wentian in the tempering grounds of the Celestial Lake. His talent is definitely not below mine, and his future achievements will not be any lower than mine as well. This Ouyang Ting thinks that she has a high status, but she doesn't know that in the face of absolute strength, her status is nothing more than dog fart. Based on her temperament, second grandpa should seriously consider my suggestion. The elder's countenance was as calm as ever, yet he was pondering in his heart. There was indeed a problem with Ouyang Ting's temperament. Qin Wentian's actions were audacious, but he had indeed caused Ouyang Ting to lose face. If it weren't for Ouyang Guangxing's appearance, he would definitely have stood on Ouyang Ting's side. There was no need to consider this. However, Ouyang Guangxing had repeatedly mentioned his relationship with Qin Wentian. Hence, he couldn't help but to seriously consider this matter. He could only punish Ouyang Ting lightly. If not, the reputation of both sides wouldn't be good. Ouyang Ting, your actions are impetuous, and your temperament isn't good. In the future, you should reflect on your actions. From now onwards, within the Ouyang clan, you are not allowed to exercise any authority. The elder calmly stated. Ouyang Guangxing furrowed his brows. This punishment was equivalent to no punishment at all. It seemed like the elder wanted to minimize this matter. As for the three of you, you were forced to do so. I won't punish you. The elder spoke to Qin Wentian and the rest, evidently wanting to resolve this matter. Won't punish me? Ouyang Ting's countenance was incredibly ugly to behold. Qin Wentian had forced her to kneel in front of Fan Lu, forcing her to kowtow. She really couldn't swallow this anger. She, Ouyang Ting, was forced to kneel. In the future, how would she be able to raise her head high in the Ouyang aristocrat clan? Isn't this punishment for Ouyang Ting a little too light? Second grandpa, if she doesn't change her mind in the future, what should we do? Before Ouyang Ting could reply, Ouyang Guangxing coldly interjected, taking the initiative. He also knew that it wasn't realistic to expel Ouyang Ting from the Ouyang aristocrat clan. An aristocrat clan was still an aristocrat clan, and Ouyang Ting was a descendant of the direct bloodline. Although she was rude today, the one who suffered the most humiliation was undoubtedly Ouyang Ting. On the contrary, Qin Wentian and the rest didn't suffer any losses. However, Ouyang Guangxing had been so overbearing the moment he arrived, not giving Ouyang Ting the slightest chance to retaliate against Qin Wentian. If she continues to act like this, hand her over to the enforcement hall. The elder calmly stated, causing Ouyang Ting to feel a chill running down her spine. Ouyang Guangxing nodded his head, I'll remember this. After speaking, he turned his gaze onto Qin Wentian and the rest as he laughed, since you came here, why didn't you look for me earlier? Let's go. Qin Wentian smiled as he nodded his head, slowly walking out. He knew that the current situation was all because of Ouyang Guangxing's efforts. After all, he was an outsider, yet today, he had forced Ouyang Ting, a descendant of the direct bloodline, to kneel and kowtow to him. Chapter 311. Ouyang Guangxing left with Qin Wentian and the other two, leaving behind the crowd of onlookers who exchanged glances of dismay. Because of Ouyang Guangxing's interference, Qin Wentian wasn't punished in the slightest. This was probably the most intense humiliation Ouyang Ting had ever suffered in her life. She bit her lips, her countenance ashen, as traces of blood seeped out from between her lips. Duan Qingshan's silhouette moved like the wind, appearing beside Ouyang Ting. Stretching his hands out, he gently stated, he will pay the price. Ouyang Ting heavily nodded. If I don't kill him, I won't have the face to face others. She, Ouyang Ting, was a young miss of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, a true descendant of the Ouyang aristocrat clan. If this matter were to spread out, how would she be able to face others? Ouyang Ting. The old man in the air glanced over. Ouyang Ting inclined her head, her eyes flickering with coldness, causing the old man to silently shake his head. Cultivate well, that's the most important thing. Qingshan, you too. See if you can break through to Heavenly Dipper this year. If you can't, at the end of the year, you'll still have a chance to become a ranker in the Heavenly Fate rankings. Yes. Duan Qingshan maintained his elegant demeanor, holding onto Ouyang Ting's hand as he bowed to the old man. He was different from Ouyang Ting, he wasn't a member of the Ouyang aristocrat clan. He was very clear of his own status, and if he wanted to obtain a higher position, he had to become stronger than all the other direct descendants of the Ouyang aristocrat clan. Everyone, disperse. The old man waved his hands, as the crowd dispersed. However, news of this matter soon circulated around. Some sighed in admiration, while others rejoiced. This Ouyang Ting had tormented many people before. Ouyang Quangsheng brought Qin Wentian and the rest to his residence, located at the highest point of the castle. This residence was as vast as an ordinary clan's residence. At this moment, they were seated on a patch of grass, and at the edge of the grass, they could see the scenery of the Azure continent from afar, as though they were looking down on all the mountains. This concept, tisk tsk. Fatty Fan Lu sighed in admiration upon seeing this. This was what status was. The maids in the residence were all extremely beautiful, causing Fan Li's eyes to shine. What's your cultivation base? After Ouyang Quangsheng sat down, he stared at Qin Wentian as he asked his first question. As for the matter regarding Ouyang Ting, it was as though he had already forgotten about it. 5th level of Yuanfu, 1 level lower than you. Qin Wentian naturally saw through Ouyang Quangsheng's cultivation base. It was at the 6th level of Yuanfu. Given Ouyang Quangsheng's background and talent, this was a very normal thing. If he didn't cultivate divine inscriptions, he should have already reached the 6th level by now. You can even see through my realm. Ouyang Quangsheng stared at Qin Wentian as though he was looking at a freak. But soon after, a bright light flickered in his eyes as he laughed. Luckily, my cultivation base is higher than yours. However, since you were able to defeat Ouyang Ting under such circumstances, your combat prowess shouldn't be at the 5th level of Yuanfu, right? If I go all out, I should be able to fight someone 2 levels above me. Of course, that also depends on who I am dealing with. After all, I am not the only one who can fight someone of a higher level. Qin Wentian mumbled in a low voice. He had sparred with Chu Meng frequently, and conservatively speaking, he should be able to fight against someone 2 levels higher than him. But if he were to fight against someone 3 levels higher, the difficulty would be exceedingly high. Most probably, he would have to use all of his trump cards. After all, the disparity between their astral energy levels was simply too great. Luckily, he had 3 Yuanfu to make up for it. Not only that, Qin Wentian's cultivation base was at the 8th level of Yuanfu, and the 1st level of mandates were all at the transformation boundary. Qin Wentian didn't have much of an advantage. Consider yourself ruthless. Ouyang Quangsheng rolled his eyes. This fellow could fight against someone 2 levels higher than him. Although Qin Wentian was only at the 5th level of Yuanfu, but since he said so, he should be able to defeat someone at the 7th level of Yuanfu. You should have come to the Azure continent earlier. Where did you go after bidding farewell to Chu? Ouyang Quangsheng was extremely curious about Qin Wentian's experiences. I don't know where to start. Qin Wentian bitterly smiled as he shook his head. After which, he recounted his experiences after leaving Chu, causing Ouyang Quangsheng to sigh in admiration. Especially after knowing that Qin Wentian was actually a 4th-ranked divine inscriptionist, Ouyang Quangsheng stared at Qin Wentian as though he was looking at a freak. 4th-ranked divine inscriptionist, this was too much of a blow to his heart. Qin Wentian's status wasn't any lower than ordinary heavenly dipper sovereigns. Not only that, Ouyang Quangsheng knew that Qin Wentian was even younger than him. Qin Wentian's achievements in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions had temporarily suppressed his talent in the martial path. You said that you want to step into the top 3 of the Heavenly Fate rankings? Ouyang Quangsheng stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian didn't reveal the matter regarding the Azure faction to Ouyang Quangsheng. After all, this matter was of great importance. Although he trusted Ouyang Quangsheng, there was no need for him to reveal it. Amicham, I have to. Qin Wentian nodded his head. There's a chance at the end of this year. However, it's only a year's time, it won't be easy. Ouyang Guangsheng's eyes flickered. This year was the third year of the Heavenly Fate rankings, and the attention of the entire Grand Xia would be focused on the Ginkgo continent. Countless heavens chosen of the younger generation would be gathered there, and this was definitely the best opportunity. If one missed this opportunity, the only way to enter the top 3 of the Heavenly Fate rankings was to find the top 3 rankers and defeat them head-on. However, if that was the case, it wouldn't be as grand as the event at the end of the year. What do you mean? Qin Wentian inquired. Have you heard of the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia? Ouyang Guangsheng asked Qin Wentian. I've heard of it before, but I heard that the current ancient kingdom is far from what it was in the past. Qin Wentian nodded. That's right. Back then, the ancient emperor of Grand Xia unified Grand Xia and controlled the entire world. His prestige were so great that everyone in this vast land was willing to submit to him. But after that, the ancient emperor underwent a huge change and the ancient emperor split up, forming countless transcendent powers. These transcendent powers occupied the 9 most flourishing cities of Grand Xia, and that was how the 9 prefectures of today are. Ouyang Guangsheng slowly continued, right now, only a single bloodline of the ancient emperor of Grand Xia remains. But even so, the people of Grand Xia would still pay homage to the ancient emperor. Every 3 years, the Yuanfu realm cultivators of Grand Xia would pay homage to the ancient emperor, vying for the fate of the ancient emperor. The Venerate Heavens sect will completely rearrange the Heavenly Fate rankings, and this year will be the 3rd year. However, we only have a year's time. Right now, my cultivation base is at the 6th level of Yuanfu, while yours is at the 5th level. If we want to go to the ancient emperor at the end of the year, we would need to raise our strength by leaps and bounds. Ancient emperor, a year's time. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. This was indeed an extremely difficult challenge. Right now, the Heavenly Fate rankings were all eyeing him like a tiger eyeing its prey. As long as he didn't break through to Heavenly Dipper, he would still be able to fight for a better ranking. Qin Wentian was also very clear that it wasn't so easy to break through to Heavenly Dipper. This was a hurdle for stellar martial cultivators. Seems like I have a chance to try. I definitely have to go to the ancient emperor. An expression of excitement flashed past Chu Mang's face. His current cultivation base was at the 7th level of Yuanfu, and as long as he put in some effort, he should be able to break through to the 9th level in a year's time. Who are you guys talking about? Contending for the Heavenly Fate rankings? A voice drifted over, only to see a beautiful silhouette walking over from afar. A mischievous smile flickered on her face as she surveyed Qin Wentian and the others. Are these the ones who caused such a commotion outside, the ones who humiliated Ouyang Ting? Xiaolu, come over here, let me introduce you guys. These are my friends, Qin Wentian, Fan Lu and Chu Mang. Ouyang Guangsheng smiled at the young lady as he continued, and this is my younger sister, Ouyang Xiaolu. How beautiful. Fan Lu laughed. Ouyang Xiaolu had a tall and slender figure, with soft curves and skin as white as snow. She was around 18 or 19 years of age, and her beauty contained hints of cuteness and mischievousness. Thank you, but your eyes are so lecherous. You must be a lecherous fellow. Ouyang Xiaolu surveyed fatty Fan Lu as she giggled. Momentarily, Fan Li's face was filled with black lines as he smiled, Fatty, I'm very innocent. Qin Wentian, who was standing at the side, almost felt disgusted. He rolled his eyes, completely speechless at this fatty. I don't believe it. Ouyang Xiaolu laughed. After which, she turned to Qin Wentian, you guys sure have guts. Ouyang Ting has never been beaten before, yet you guys actually dared to make her kneel. I think you guys are in for it, she will definitely not let you off. Stay at my place, they won't dare to do anything. Ouyang Guangsheng casually replied. I know you're powerful. Ouyang Xiaolu rolled her eyes at Ouyang Guangsheng. Let's not talk about this anymore. Follow me, I'll bring you guys to a good place. Ouyang Guangsheng seemed to have suddenly thought of something as his eyes shone with a brilliant light. Noticing his expression, Ouyang Xiaolu blinked as she pointed at Ouyang Guangsheng. You want to bring them there? My younger sister understands me the best. Ouyang Guangsheng ruffled Ouyang Xiaolu's hair before gesturing to Qin Wentian and the rest. The group then soared into the air, flying towards the horizon. Qin Wentian and the rest were extremely curious. They didn't know where Ouyang Guangsheng was bringing them. After a long period of time, Qin Wentian arrived at a mountain range. There was actually a mountain range within the Azure continent. This region was like a secluded domain, not within the Azure continent. Qin Wentian stared at the huge gate in front of him. There were 3 words engraved on it, ancient and vigorous, as though dragons and phoenixes were dancing in the wind. Unmatched realm, unmatched. What an arrogant tone. Where is this place? Qin Wentian curiously inquired. Ouyang Guangsheng laughed as he continued walking forwards. The huge gate opened, and the group of them stepped in. The scenery before Qin Wentian's eyes was like that of an otherworldly realm. In front of them, there was a celestial mountain surrounded by clouds, and in the vicinity, there was a pavilion with flowing water. There were several silhouettes of youths present, and as they stared in the direction of Qin Wentian, their eyes flashed with a strange light. Ouyang Guangsheng, you actually brought outsiders here? A voice drifted over. The eyes of the youths all shone with a divine charm, and when they stared at Qin Wentian, their eyes gleamed with sharpness. What a powerful aura! Although these people are all youths, they all exude the aura of an aristocrat clan. What kind of place is this unmatched realm exactly? Qin Wentian curiously mused. Very soon, they won't be outsiders anymore. Ouyang Guangsheng laughed. Is that so? Do you really think that these 3 will be able to enter the unmatched realm? What kind of place do you think the unmatched realm is? Another person coldly laughed. The unmatched realm of the Azure continent, the holy land of geniuses. The vast majority of the rankers on the Heavenly Dipper and Heavenly Fate rankings had all been to the unmatched realm before. Chapter 312. Just as Qin Wentian was feeling curious, a silhouette abruptly appeared in the air. This silhouette stood there arrogantly, exuding an imposing aura. He swept his gaze over to Qin Wentian and the others as he asked, the 3 of you, do you wish to attempt the unmatched realm gate? Yes. Ouyang Guangsheng nodded his head to Qin Wentian and the rest. This place is filled with geniuses. Only by passing the unmatched realm gate can one cultivate in the unmatched realm. There are some extremely terrifying characters in the unmatched realm, we have to pass it no matter what. Right. Qin Wentian and the others nodded their heads. Ouyang Guangsheng naturally wouldn't lie to them. Yes. Staring at the silhouette in the air, Qin Wentian spoke. Momentarily, the silhouette stomped on the ground, causing a thunderous boom to echo out. In an instant, an illusory city rose up from the ground, as terrifying rumbling sounds echoed out. The silhouette in the air then spoke, after entering the unmatched realm, the 3 of you will be separated. You will have to depend on your own strength, and if you fail, you are not allowed to enter the unmatched realm ever again. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered as he stared at the ancient gate in front of him. I'll go first. As the sound of his voice faded, his silhouette flickered as he stepped into the unmatched realm gate. Fan Lu and Chu Mang's countenances also flickered as they stepped into the unmatched realm gate, vanishing from the vision of the crowd. At the instant they entered, countless silhouettes appeared in the surroundings. These people all had extraordinary demeanors, unexcelled in the world. If Qin Wentian was here, he would have discovered that there were even some familiar faces among these silhouettes. Back then, in the refinement grounds of the immortal realm, he fought side by side with Ouyang Guangsheng and encountered many powerful characters. Shiki from the Beast King Hall, Yao Xing from the Sky Demon Sect, Wang Xiao from the War Continent, all of them were extremely powerful characters. And now, all of them had appeared here, staring at the unmatched realm gate. It's been a long time since someone came here to attempt the unmatched realm gate. I wonder which clan they are from. Someone asked. No idea, I think they came together with Ouyang Guangsheng and his sister. Ouyang Guangsheng. Wang Zhao's eyes flickered as he stared at Ouyang Guangsheng. Ouyang, did you bring someone here to embarrass yourself? Ouyang Guangsheng inclined his head, staring at Wang Zhao in the air as he laughed. Wang Zhao, you should be acquainted with this man as well. Back then in the refinement grounds of the immortal realm, you were the one who suffered a miserable defeat. Wang Zhao frowned and said, it's him. How's his cultivation going? I hope he doesn't disappoint me. 5th level of Yuanfu. Ouyang Guangsheng casually replied, as though he didn't care at all. Wang Zhao's eyes flickered as he replied in a cold voice, 5th level of Yuanfu, not bad. Let's hope he can pass the unmatched realm gate. Only then will there be people who can play with him. Ha, I won't disappoint you. Ouyang Guangsheng laughed. This Wang Zhao was from the transcendent power of the war continent, the Wang clan. The Wang clan was proficient in the art of weaponsmithing, and they were extremely wealthy in the war continent. Currently, Wang Zhao's cultivation base was also at the 6th level of Yuanfu. His aura was extraordinary, and just a single glance at him would cause people to feel a sense of sharpness, as though he himself was a divine weapon. Ouyang Guangsheng, since you know who he is, why did you still dare to bring him to the unmatched realm? In the unmatched realm, we can't kill or cripple people, but I will definitely torture him to death. Shiki bared his fangs, his eyes flashing with a malevolent light. He exuded the bestial nature of a demonic beast, and was extremely violent. Wang Zhao, who are you? A beautiful lady walked to the side of Wang Zhao as she inquired. Qiao Xian. Back then, I met a fellow who joined forces with Ouyang Guangsheng to snatch the Celestial Lake baptism from the Celestial Lake Palace, Wang Zhao replied. Qiao Xian was an expert from the transcendent power of the Azure continent, the Mystic Maiden Palace. Her talent was extraordinary, and she was nurtured as a heaven's chosen. After Wang Zhao became acquainted with her, he started to pursue her, and now, he had already managed to win her heart. Unmatched realm, Azure continent. Not only were the geniuses of the Azure continent willing to come here, even the transcendent powers of the 9 continents were willing to join the unmatched realm. In the unmatched realm, there were many immortal caves and residences. There were several old men sitting within. At this moment, they slowly opened their eyes as they stared at the mountain rampart in front of them. Numerous images appeared in their minds. These images were none other than the scenes of Qin Wentian, Fan Lu, and Chu Mang in the unmatched realm. There's actually another batch of people trying to barge into the unmatched realm, and this time around, there are 3 of them. I wonder if there will be any surprises among them. Within one of the residences, an old man murmured in a low voice. After which, he closed his eyes, as though he couldn't see what was happening in front of him. After Qin Wentian stepped into the unmatched realm, he instantly appeared in a separate space. This space was like a mountain rampart, with no view of the outside world. In front of Qin Wentian, a 3rd-ranked puppet appeared. It stared at Qin Wentian as it stated, "Little brat, this is the first barrier of the unmatched realm. My cultivation base is equal to yours. If you wish to pass through, you are not allowed to use any innate techniques or techniques. Just use brute force to crush me." Right. Qin Wentian nodded. You can borrow the power of your mandate to infuse it into your strength. Little brat, don't be too confident. My strength is sufficient to shock you. The voice of this puppet was filled with an air of seniority, as though it was lecturing a junior. Most probably, the creator of this puppet was an old fellow. Qin Wentian nodded his head as he advanced forward. The puppet continued standing there, and just as Qin Wentian was about to reach it, the puppet abruptly punched out. With a thunderous boom, a terrifying pressure bore down on Qin Wentian's body. At the same instant, Qin Wentian also made his move. A simple and unadorned punch blasted out, filled with an overwhelming might. Mandate. Qin Wentian released his mandate of force. Currently, his mandate of force had already reached the transformation boundary, increasing his strength by 8 times. Peng! Terrifying forces collided against each other, yet neither of them moved. That was because the puppet directly collapsed onto the ground, roaring, "Little brat, I won't let you off." A faint smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he walked past the collapsed body of the puppet. "Bastard! Little brat, you're dead for sure." The howls of rage drifted over from behind, yet Qin Wentian continued advancing forward. After entering another cavern, Qin Wentian saw a pair of sinister eyes staring at him. He inclined his head and stared at the mountain rampart, only to see numerous terrifying demonic wolves glaring at him. These demonic wolves were all black in color, and were gleaming with a faint black light. All of them were 8th level demonic beasts, equivalent to Wu Xiu at the middle 3rd level of Yuanfu. This aura, these demonic wolves should all be at the peak of the 5th level of Yuanfu. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over and instantly sensed the aura of the demonic wolves. After which, a pitch-black luster flickered as the demonic wolves all lunged towards Qin Wentian, transforming into shadows of darkness. Boom! Qin Wentian took a step forward as waves of demonic qi gushed forth from him. His will of force gushed forth, and in an instant, the entire space was filled with a powerful demonic qi as well as a sense of power. Bzzz, a raging wind gusted by as Qin Wentian dashed forward, only to see a demonic wolf spitting out a terrifying black spear that pierced towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian punched out in rage, shattering the black spear. The sharp claws of the demonic wolf appeared, grabbing towards Qin Wentian's arm. Bang! That terrifying strength directly crushed the demonic wolves into dust. Qin Wentian didn't slow down at all as he dashed forward. Terrifying rumbling sounds echoed through the air as the demonic wolves in front of him were all crushed into nothingness. In just a short instant, Qin Wentian had already passed through the mountain rampart, and he didn't even turn his head back as he continued forward. This strength, I like it, but it's still not enough to satisfy my requirements. In a cave dwelling in the unmatched realm, a muscular man whose entire body exuded an explosive aura stared at the projection in front of him. His eyes were fixated on Qin Wentian, only to see that Qin Wentian had already reached the 3rd checkpoint. This time around, the one who obstructed him was a long-armed ape with gigantic arms, blocking the narrow pathway of the cave dwelling. However, he only saw that Qin Wentian's silhouette directly dashed forward, and without any hesitation, he punched out, aiming for the long-armed ape. So ferocious. The muscular man's eyes widened as he stared at the scene in front of him. Qin Wentian was an entire level higher than Qin Wentian, yet he didn't rely on any innate techniques. Directly suppressing him with brute force? The strength of this long-armed ape was definitely at the peak of the 6th level of Yuanfu. Even experts whose mandates had already broken through to the advanced boundary wouldn't be able to withstand its attacks. However, in the next instant, his eyes widened as he saw the long-armed ape violently slamming into the wall. The violent long-armed ape no longer had any temper as it obediently allowed the young man to walk past it. "This brat, I'm going to subdue him." The burly man roared, his voice causing the entire cave dwelling to tremble. This caused the other experts in the cave dwellings to open their eyes impatiently. That bastard has his eyes on a brute strength expert. But what's the use of brute strength? But very quickly, their views changed. Because they saw that Qin Wentian consecutively broke through 6 checkpoints, and not only that, he didn't even pause for a moment. He used brute strength to break through all the checkpoints. Such a level of difficulty was extremely rare. With the 5th checkpoint, Qin Wentian already had the qualifications to enter the unmatched realm. With the 6th checkpoint, many people started to pay attention to it. With the 7th checkpoint, some of the old fellows started to get serious. It was extremely rare for someone to be able to break through all 7 checkpoints. When Qin Wentian broke through the 8th checkpoint, the eyes of many of the old fellows lit up. Fighting against someone 2 levels higher than him, he would definitely be able to suppress them. This was truly a great honor. They wondered which transcendent power he was from. Only 2 checkpoints left. At this moment, Many of the old fellows in the cave dwelling started to open their eyes. The 9th checkpoint was already the second last checkpoint. The difficulty of the test that Qin Wendian faced was equivalent to 3 cultivators at the peak of the 7th level of Yuanfu. Outside the unmatched realm, several silhouettes stood in the air, waiting calmly. They didn't know if one of the 3 cultivators would be able to pass. Now, the time limit was still very short. The longer one stayed inside, the more trials they could pass, and the more outstanding they would be. Ouyang Guangsheng, I hope that friend of yours can stay longer. If he comes out too early, it would be too shameful if not even a single one of the elders from the unmatched realm appeared. Wang Xiao coldly stated. After passing the checkpoints, they still needed to see how many elders from the unmatched realm would appear. This meant that there were a few people who wanted to recruit them into their sections. Many times, the elders from the unmatched realm wouldn't even appear, and would only allow them to head up the mountain to pay their respects. Unless, there were some outstanding characters that attracted the attention of the elders. Chapter 313. Ouyang Guangsheng inclined his head and stared at Wang Xiao, his eyes flickering with arrogance and disdain. Wang Xiao, back then when you entered the unmatched realm, how many people came out? Ouyang Guangsheng coldly asked. He naturally knew the answer. 3 people. Wang Xiao proudly replied. The old fellows of the unmatched realm were all extremely lazy, they didn't even accept disciples. It was already a great favor for them to cultivate under them. Although many people had the qualifications to enter the unmatched realm, they had no way to become a disciple of one of those old fellows. The old fellows here were all truly capable fellows. And it was precisely because of this that the geniuses of the Azure continent were able to gather here. Even geniuses from outside the Azure continent were willing to travel tens of thousands of miles to come here. Back then, Wang Xiao managed to convince 3 people to appear, wanting to accept him as a disciple. However, Wang Xiao refused. Later on, he followed an extremely famous unparalleled elder to cultivate, wanting to become his disciple. I don't think I'll be any less than you. Ouyang Guangsheng coldly laughed, his words causing Wang Xiao's countenance to stiffen. He stared back at Ouyang Guangsheng, I'll wait and see then. Far away, within the ancient mountains, immortal qi lingered about. Within the cavern residences, the people of the unmatched realm couldn't even find the existence of these cavern residences even if they wanted to. But at this moment, there were many people staring intently at the projection in front of their eyes. This was the situation within the unmatched realm. The unmatched realm was located within a formation, and they could see the situation inside the formation from within. At this moment, the eyes of many of the old fellows gleamed with sharpness. He passed the 9th checkpoint. These people exclaimed in their hearts. They had personally witnessed Qin Wendian stepping into the 10th checkpoint, while the other 2 were stuck at the 5th and 6th checkpoints. This is. The eyes of the crowd gleamed with sharpness. In the 10th checkpoint, there were 18 demonic beasts at the peak of the 7th level of Yuanfu. Not only that, they were all extremely ferocious astral war beasts, each and every one of them wanted to tear him apart. However, they only saw the young man crazily defending, occasionally attacking. The astral energy erupting from his body was extremely terrifying, it was as though he had unleashed a horde of innate techniques. What was even more shocking was that Qin Wendian was inscribing a peak-tier 3rd-ranked defensive divine inscription. He wanted to stabilize his stance first. Damn it, he actually managed to block it. Roared the burly man, causing the entire Immortals cave to tremble. This guy is just too much to my liking. Depressing, too depressing. There's definitely no chance. Naturally, he could tell how strong Qin Wendian was. But now, what Qin Wendian displayed wasn't merely his strength. Wasn't the speed at which he inscribed 3rd-ranked divine inscriptions a little too fast? Most probably, that old fellow wanted Qin Wendian for sure. Qin Wendian couldn't compete with him. In another cave dwelling, a rather lazy old man stared at the situation before him. His rather lazy body casually leaned against the mountain wall, but his narrowed eyes shone brilliantly. A single stomp from his foot is already an initial grade 3rd level divine inscription. This speed is much faster compared to me back then. The old man's eyes shone with a bright light. Not too long later, the divine inscriptions started to merge together, becoming stronger and stronger. The initial stage 3rd rank divine inscriptions transformed into peak stage 3rd rank defensive divine inscriptions, and finally, peak stage 3rd rank offensive divine inscriptions. This old man wants Qin Wentian. Later on, none of you are allowed to compete with me. The old man roared, causing the surrounding mountains to tremble. Even the cave dwellings of those people trembled. Someone cursed in a low voice, "Shameless old fogey, using such a forceful method again." "Shameless, shameless, who are you talking about?" A voice rang out in the cave dwelling of the person who spoke. That person immediately replied, "Old brother, I'm just joking. I won't go out, I definitely won't go out." He passed, the 10th checkpoint was also passed by him. The crowd saw that the divine inscriptions were unstoppable, growing stronger and stronger. Faintly, the might of 4th-ranked divine inscriptions could be felt, forcibly breaking through the 10th checkpoint. Why hasn't he gone out yet? What is the gatekeeper doing? However, when they saw another silhouette appearing beside Qin Wentian, their eyes all froze. She actually went into the formation. The people in the cave dwelling seemed to have thought of something. They all turned their heads, their gazes piercing through the mountain walls, staring at the misty mountain peak in the distance. This. Did he notice this? Qin Wentian was astonished as well. He stared in bewilderment at the silhouette in front of him. She was clad in a robe that seemed to be woven from snowflakes, pure white. However, the snow-white robe didn't cause her skin to appear any different. On the contrary, it seemed to be the most beautiful combination. Her skin was as white as snow, as though it would melt with just a light touch. There were traces of coldness radiating from her. Her demeanor was somewhat similar to Qing, but there were also some differences. The woman in front of her was like a snow lotus on a mountain of ice, while Qing was like an otherworldly being. Although the maiden in front of him was very beautiful, Qin Wentian still felt that Qing was prettier. After all, the fact that he was able to compare her to Qing had already proven that the maiden in front of him was extremely beautiful. For example, although Qin Wentian felt that Ouyang Ting was beautiful, if he compared her to Qing that kind of beauty would simply be too tacky. Among all the women that Qin Wentian had seen before, only Qingqing's beauty was different from Qing's. When she was 15 or 16, she was already the #1 beauty in Chu. Every frown and every smile of hers was enough to topple empires. As for the cultivation base of the maiden in front of him, she was only at the 8th level of Yuanfu. Don't borrow the power of your divine inscriptions. Fight against me with all your might, I won't hold back. The maiden's voice was as cold as her personality. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. The feeling this maiden gave him was that unless she was beautiful, she would definitely be stronger than Yang Fan's fiancé, Shu Wanyu. Rumble. Qin Wentian's aura instantly erupted forth. Demonic qi, bloodline power, mandate of mandate, all erupted at the same time. At this moment, his entire person exuded an unstoppable aura, akin to that of a terrifying gigantic beast. As the demonic qi swept past, Qin Wentian's silhouette instantly appeared in front of his opponent. A terrifying dragon imprint erupted forth from his palms, and his gaze swept over, piercing into his opponent's eyes. His terrifying mandate of mandate gushed forth, yet he felt as though he was standing in the middle of a snow-covered aristocrat clan. A single glance from his opponent caused him to feel a bone-piercing chill. His opponent's mandate of mandate directly rushed into his eyes, penetrating into his body. How powerful, this is the mandate of a mandate at the perfection boundary. Qin Wentian could feel the coldness in his entire body. His opponent's mandate of mandate had already transcended the transformation boundary, stepping into the perfection boundary. Next, he should be comprehending the second mandate of mandate, in preparation for his breakthrough to Heavenly Dipper. However, his opponent's cultivation base was only at the 8th level of Yuanfu, far from the peak of Yuanfu. Yet, his mandate of mandate had already reached the perfection boundary. Regardless of how strong his opponent was, Qin Wentian's battle intent didn't waver in the slightest. He stared straight at his opponent, unleashing a frenzied dragon imprint as the divine energy within his body frenziedly erupted forth. Peng! The terrifying attacks collided with each other. An extremely cold aura gushed forth from Qin Wentian's arms into his body, as a layer of frost instantly covered his entire body. Given his opponent's cultivation base, in addition to the mandate of mandate at the perfection boundary, just the release of a single mandate of mandate was already comparable to those at the 9th level of Yuanfu. Since his opponent was able to achieve the perfection boundary of a single mandate, it was evident that his comprehension ability was also extremely high. Although Qin Wentian wasn't in a good state, the power of his attack caused the countenance of the female to change slightly. She felt that this 5th-level Yuanfu cultivator was akin to an undefeatable beast. Even a 7th-level Yuanfu cultivator wouldn't be able to give her such a feeling. Boom! Qin Wentian blasted out with his left palm, containing yet another surge of terrifying might. The countenance of the female froze. She twisted her palms, and instantly, the frost around Qin Wentian intensified, causing him to feel as though he was about to be buried within the ice. After which, she waved her hands in front of her as an ancient shield of ice appeared in front of her. Qin Wentian's attack directly shattered the shield, but the female merely pointed her finger forward as a terrifying blizzard manifested, engulfing Qin Wentian. Cold. At this moment, Qin Wentian was so cold that his entire body was trembling. It felt as though his Yuanfu was about to be frozen solid. Mandates could be divided into 4 levels: initial boundary, advanced boundary, transformation boundary, and perfection boundary. The perfection boundary was the foundation for one to step into the 2nd level of mandates. It was many times stronger than the transformation boundary. Qin Wentian knew that he wasn't a match for his opponent, yet he still pierced through the air with a finger strike. The terrifying demonic qi he exuded caused the ice and snow in the air to tremble. A violent surge of energy ravaged Qin Wentian, forcing him to retreat. The female also halted her attack. She stared at Qin Wentian as a strange light flashed in her eyes. After which, she stated in a low voice, "Your combat prowess is very strong." After speaking, she turned and departed, vanishing from Qin Wentian's sight, as though she had never appeared before. The silhouettes in the cave all quietened down. This fellow was actually able to withstand her attack and was still able to stand there unscathed. His overall combat prowess was extremely high. A bright light flashed as Qin Wentian's silhouette appeared outside. At this moment, he was floating in the air. Beneath his feet was the trial of the unmatched realm. Fan Lu and Chu Mang had yet to exit. "Who? It's so cold." Qin Wentian mumbled in a low voice. His body was still covered in ice and snow. Inclining his head, he discovered that there were several people staring at him from the air. Involuntarily, a strange expression appeared on his face. "How fast?" Wang Xiao smiled. The time Qin Wentian took to enter the unmatched realm was truly short. Not only that, his body was still covered in ice and snow, causing him to shiver uncontrollably. How interesting. Wang Xiao's gaze turned to the ancient mountain in the distance. Not a single silhouette appeared, it was extremely quiet. Many of the youths were staring in that direction, yet not a single silhouette appeared. This scene caused Ouyang Guangsheng to furrow his brows. Something was wrong. Could it be that Qin Wentian had lied to him? How was this possible? As for Wang Xiao, a cold and disdainful smile appeared on his face. Not even a single silhouette appeared. Back then when we parted, Qin Wentian had already fallen to such a state. To think that you, Ouyang Guangsheng, are still bragging about him. Wang Xiao faintly stated. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at Wang Xiao, naturally recognizing him. Not even a single silhouette appeared. What did this mean? Chapter 314. Ouyang Guangsheng was puzzled as well. It seemed like there really wasn't any movement. Sweeping his gaze over to the crowd, Ouyang Guangsheng felt extremely depressed when he saw the faint smiles in the eyes of the crowd. The smiles on the corners of everyone's mouths seemed to be filled with a faint sense of mockery, as if they were watching a joke. Evidently, they treated Qin Wentian as a joke, and Ouyang Guangsheng as a joke as well. In the air, the person controlling the formation turned his gaze onto Qin Wentian. Congratulations, you've passed the test of the unmatched realm. From now on, you can freely enter and exit the unmatched realm. However, you are not allowed to enter the 36 Dao cultivation halls without permission. That person stared at Qin Wentian with a strange expression on his face. This shouldn't be the case, he thought there would be many people coming out. But at this moment, there was an abnormal silence. Many thanks for senior's guidance. Qin Wentian nodded his head. Ha, I'm afraid you won't be able to obtain permission. An arrogant laughter rang out. After which, Qin Wentian saw a silhouette walking out. It was none other than Shiki, a half-beastman. His physique seemed even more muscular than before. He was now 2 meters tall, and exuded an aura of tyrannical might. With the bloodline of a beast king, as his strength grew, his physique would also possess the characteristics of demonic beasts, growing stronger and stronger until he grew into a humanoid beast with boundless strength. Seems like the unmatched realm is truly an extraordinary place. The distance between the Demon Continent and the Azure Continent is extremely far, yet the members of the Beast King Hall in the Demon Continent have all come here to cultivate. Qin Wentian silently mused as he stared at Shiki, his countenance as calm as ever. Today, I'm going to teach the newbies a lesson. Remember to abide by the rules in the future. Ouyang Guangsheng, you better not interfere in this matter. Shiki grinned as a demonic aura flickered in his eyes. Ouyang Guangsheng stared in the air, only to see Qin Wentian looking back at him as he asked, in the unmatched realm, to what extent can one fight reach? As long as you don't kill or cripple them, it's fine. Ouyang Guangsheng froze when he saw the calm look in Qin Wentian's eyes. After which, a faint smile appeared on his face. Qin Wentian's calm eyes caused him to feel a hint of violence. Oh. Qin Wentian nodded. Right, as long as I don't kill you or cripple you, it's fine. In the future, in the unmatched realm, you better not let me see you again. If not, every time I see you, I'll torture you. Shiki's smile was exceptionally carefree. After that, he took a step forward. His terrifying body trampled on the void, causing the entire space to sink as a surge of violent energy pervaded the air. Kacha! Shiki raised his arm and clenched his fist, causing a formless energy to condense. Everyone in the air crossed their arms in front of their chests, quietly watching the show. Based on Shiki's strength, he should be able to make Qin Wentian, who was at the 5th level of Yuanfu, suffer a miserable defeat. Shiki and the others had always been at loggerheads with Ouyang Guangsheng. Now that they had the chance to ruthlessly slap Qin Wentian, they naturally wouldn't be polite. Torturing Qin Wentian was undoubtedly the same as slapping Ouyang Guangsheng's face. Very swiftly, Shiki appeared in front of Qin Wentian. The spectators only saw him swinging his gigantic arms, akin to a ferocious demonic beast as he smashed them towards Qin Wentian. That surge of power caused the wind to howl in rage. Even if a mountain were to be smashed apart by Shiki, there was no doubt that Qin Wentian's frail body would be destroyed. Qin Wentian clenched his fist as a terrifying demonic qi gushed forth from it. Qin Wentian's arms were enveloped by the demonic qi, transforming into the arms of a Kirin. His will of mandates erupted forth, infused with divine energy. Similarly, Qin Wentian lifted his arms and smashed them out. Boom! 2 terrifying forces collided against each other. Just when the spectators thought that Qin Wentian would be flung through the air, he didn't even move an inch. Instead, His gaze swept towards Shiki as an intense light flickered in his eyes. Shiki's expression stiffened, as though he was about to fall asleep. His consciousness blurred, as though he was about to fall asleep. Pang! Qin Wentian's fist ruthlessly smashed out once more. Shiki groaned in agony as he was forced back explosively. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as he instantly caught up to Shiki. Pang, 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 fist after fist smashed out, and under the shocked gazes of the spectators, Shiki let out a blood-curdling screech as fresh blood gushed out from his wounds. His humanoid body was smashed into smithereens, the sight of which was too horrible to look at. In the future, whenever I'm around, it's best that you don't appear. Qin Wentian's emotionless voice rang out. His fist smashed out once more as a thunderous boom echoed out. Shiki's body was flung through the air before he slammed heavily into the ground, coughing out large mouthfuls of blood. That powerful half-beastman was now nothing more than a bloody mess. The gazes of the spectators froze. How was this possible? Shiki was a half-beastman, and his body contained the bloodline of the Berserk Beast King. His physique was incomparably tyrannical, yet Qin Wendian only relied on brute force to crush him. Yet Qin Wendian acted as though nothing had happened. He inclined his head and stared at Wang Xiao as he indifferently stated, "I don't really understand your words, but if you want to spar with me, I'm right here." After speaking, Qin Wendian shrugged, as though he didn't put Wang Xiao, who was at the 6th level of Yuanfu, in his eyes at all. This scene caused Wang Xiao's countenance to stiffen. At this moment, he stared at Qin Wendian with a strange look in his eyes. But soon after, he coldly laughed, "You're only strong. No wonder the Peerless Sect elders didn't appear. If you don't want to fight, then don't waste your breath," Qin Wendian faintly stated. After which, he no longer looked at Wang Xiao, but instead, shifted his gaze onto Ouyang Guangsheng. There were some things he didn't understand yet. The 36 Dao cultivation halls of the Unmatched Realm all have seniors cultivating there. If you are granted permission, people of the Unmatched Realm can enter one of the halls and cultivate the martial Dao under the guidance of the seniors there. Ouyang Guangsheng slowly continued, "The Unmatched Realm's entrance test is an opportunity for you. The Peerless Sect elders will be able to observe your performance during the test, and if they're willing, they can invite you to join them." Back then, Wang Xiao had 3 Dao cultivation halls desiring to accept him as a disciple. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered as he understood Qin Wentian's words. "In that case, it's very shameful for me to not have a single disciple." "A little." Ouyang Guangsheng nodded his head, causing Qin Wentian to feel somewhat embarrassed. No wonder these people were looking at him with such discomfort in their eyes. The corners of his lips curled up in a mocking smile. But that shouldn't be the case. He had almost passed all the tests, except for the last one. The strength of the female who appeared was simply too strong. Based on his strength alone, there was no way he would be able to win. Could it be that the people here were all capable of fighting someone 3 levels higher than him? Obviously, this wasn't realistic. Fuck. A low voice cursed. Qin Wendian turned his gaze over, only to see Fatty Fan Lu appearing. An extremely depressed expression could be seen on his face, as though he was extremely uncomfortable inside. Even his robes were a little disheveled. Wasn't the test of the Unmatched Realm a little too difficult? Who? Chu Mang appeared as well. He drew in a deep breath as he stared at Fan Lu and Qin Wendian. "You guys came out as well." "Amichum, Brother Mang, where are you now?" Fan Lu asked. "The 6th test." Chu Mang replied. "What about you?" "Hee, it seems like I, Fatty, am more talented than you. I've already passed the 7th test." Fan Lu laughed in satisfaction. "The power of your bloodline limit is sufficient to amplify your strength. It's only natural that you passed the 6th test." Chu Mang faintly replied. The conversation between the two of them was heard by the crowd, causing many to feel bewildered. Passing the 6th and 7th test was already considered not bad, and after passing the 5th test, one would be able to enter the unmatched realm. The sound of the wind whistling could be heard as a silhouette appeared in the distance. This person exuded an aura of sharpness, and his eyes gleamed with a golden light. His gaze was extremely penetrative, and he was currently staring at Fan Lo. Arrow Emperor, damn, the Arrow Emperor has appeared. The gazes of many sharpened as they stared at fatty Fan Lo. How could this fellow be so lucky? You're proficient in archery, and have an extremely powerful mental energy. You're extremely suitable to cultivate under me. I can help you perfect your archery techniques. Are you willing to take me as your master? That person spoke to Fan Lo, his words causing Fan Lo to stiffen as he weakly asked, "How's your strength?" The spectators in the air were all sweating profusely. This damnable fatty was truly shameless. Even Ouyang Guangsheng and Ouyang Xiaolu were completely speechless. What a shameless fatty. Someone ranked in the Heavenly Dipper rankings. The Arrow Emperor lightly smiled. Momentarily, fatty Fan Li's eyes lit up as he bowed. Disciple pays his respects to master. Damn, isn't this damnable fatty's actions too fast? He directly acknowledged a master. The spectators were speechless. Earlier, this shameless fatty was still asking about Qin Wentian's strength. What a joke, someone ranked on the Heavenly Dipper rankings was a character that could be counted on one's finger in Grand Xia. Fatty regretted asking that question earlier. How could he not hurry up and acknowledge Qin Wentian as his master? There's something I have to make clear first. The unmatched realm is independent from the outside world, and we won't interfere with the affairs of the outside world. If you encounter any trouble outside, I will ignore it. Are you willing to acknowledge me as your master? The Arrow Emperor continued. Fan Lo nodded his head as he smiled. Disciple doesn't want to show off in the outside world, I only want to cultivate the Tao of archery. I hope master will accept me. You little brat, you've already called him your master. How can he not accept you? Another silhouette descended. This person had a gigantic physique and was bare-chested. He turned his gaze onto Chu Mang as he asked, this person's archery techniques are similarly outstanding. Why don't you accept him as well? I know you might like him. Naturally, I'll allow him to enter my Tao cultivation hall. I'll help you guide him in archery. The Arrow Emperor faintly spoke, his words causing the bare-chested figure to grin. You're indeed loyal. Fine, I'll also allow this fatty to enter my Tao cultivation hall. After speaking, he turned his gaze onto Chu Mang. Although you've only reached the 6th level, that's because you're already at the 7th level of Yuanfu. The higher your cultivation base, the harder it is to break through to the next level. Are you willing to take me as your master? Chu Mang is willing, it's just that I'm a little stupid. I hope Senior won't mind. Chu Mang laughed, his words causing the Arrow Emperor and that bare-chested figure to burst out laughing. That bare-chested figure then replied, no problem, I like those who are a little stupid. The Arrow Emperor and that bare-chested figure both turned their gazes onto Qin Wentian as they sighed, what a pity. Little brat, you can come to my Tao cultivation hall anytime in the future. That bare-chested figure spoke to Qin Wentian. My Tao cultivation hall is also open to you. The Arrow Emperor also spoke, his words causing Qin Wentian to be puzzled. Many in the crowd thought that Qin Wentian's performance wasn't bad, but it wasn't enough to be accepted as a disciple. From afar, a celestial-like silhouette slowly walked over. It was none other than that young lady who resembled a snow lotus on a mountain of ice. Her appearance instantly attracted the gazes of the crowd as their hearts were filled with bewilderment. Why was she here? That young lady slowly walked over, her beautiful eyes staring at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian also noticed her, and he too stared at her. I'm here to inform you that the 36 Tao cultivation halls are all open to you. You can enter any of them at any time to cultivate. The voice of the young lady was like a thunderclap, ruthlessly echoing in the ears of the crowd. The 36 Tao cultivation halls were all open to Qin Wentian, Chapter 3:15. The maiden's robes were as white as snow. After leaving behind a single sentence, she drifted away, causing the entire area to fall into a state of silence. The 36 mountains, the 36 ancient mountains where the 36 elders cultivated, all had their own Tao cultivation halls. Only those who had the permission of the unparalleled elders could enter the mountains to cultivate. Many of them were only valued by a few elders, while the more powerful ones could enter the Tao cultivation halls at the same time. And for those with outstanding talent, they would be fought over by many to become disciples. However, only those demon-level characters with unparalleled talent would be able to receive such treatment. The unparalleled elders of the 36 mountains were willing to guide them in their cultivation. At least at this moment, other than Qin Wentian, no one else had such treatment. And in the entire unmatched realm, there were only 3 geniuses who had the permission to enter the Tao cultivation halls. And now, there was a 4th, and that 4th person was none other than Qin Wentian. Earlier, not a single person had appeared, but now, the maiden had left behind such a message. Such a strong contrast gave the crowd a surreal feeling. Especially Wang Xiao, who was still shouting arrogantly not long ago. He felt as though his throat was being choked, as his face alternated between shades of green and white. The words of the maiden were truly a slap to his face. He, Wang Xiao, had 3 unparalleled elders who were willing to accept him as a disciple. Although he rejected them, they still allowed him to enter their Tao cultivation halls. And after that, he managed to obtain the permission of 2 other unparalleled elders, allowing him to enter a total of 5 Tao cultivation halls. In the unmatched realm, this could already be considered not bad. However, for Qin Wentian, the 36 mountains were completely open to him. Ha! Ouyang Guangsheng was stunned for a moment before he started laughing uproariously. He stared at Qin Wentian with a strange expression as he continued, no wonder none of the unparalleled elders appeared. It's not that they don't want to appear, but rather, they want to give you a better opportunity. As long as you are willing, all the unparalleled elders of the 36 mountains will guide you in your cultivation. A faint smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he whispered to Ouyang Guangsheng, if that's the case, it shouldn't be too shameful, right? Ouyang Guangsheng fiercely glared at Qin Wentian, this fellow was too good at acting. Of course it's embarrassing. How can you compare to a genius like Wang Xiao? Wang Xiao was the one who made the 3 peerless elders appear. Ouyang Guangsheng laughed uproariously. Wang Xiao's eyes turned sinister as he coldly stared at Ouyang Guangsheng, only to see Ouyang Guangsheng staring back at him. Wang Xiao, don't you feel like you're being smacked in the face? I really want to see how far he can cultivate in the unmatched realm. Wang Xiao coldly snorted, pulling Qiao Xian along as they left. He no longer had the face to stay here any longer. The silhouettes in the air all had expressions of interest on their faces as they stared at Qin Wentian. It seemed as though a monster had appeared in the unmatched realm. Not only that, he was still very young, and his strength wasn't that strong. In the unmatched realm, there were many geniuses stronger than Qin Wentian. Alright, come with me. The Arrow Emperor brought Fan Lu away, while the bare-chested figure brought Chu Mang away, heading towards the Tao cultivation hall. Ouyang Guangsheng watched as the crowd gradually dispersed. He walked to the side of Qin Wentian as he smiled, looks like Fan Lu and Chu Mang's performances weren't bad either. The Arrow Emperor is an extremely powerful archery expert, Fan Lu has definitely chosen the right person to follow. Senior Qiao Long is also extremely powerful, especially in terms of the power of the axe. Chu Mang is definitely a good choice to follow him. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly, as a smile appeared on his face. Qin Wentian, you're in for it this time around. Ouyang Xiaolu giggled as she spoke to Qin Wentian, causing an expression of bewilderment to appear on Qin Wentian's face. Was he in for it? Don't worry, enjoy yourself. Ouyang Guangsheng patted Qin Wentian on his shoulders. Qin Wentian stared at the sinister smile on Ouyang Guangsheng's face, feeling even more puzzled. The unmatched realm is filled with geniuses. Your cultivation base is only at the 5th level of Yuanfu, yet you've obtained the authority to pass through all 36 halls without any obstructions. I'm afraid this will cause a huge commotion in the unmatched realm. Which genius in the unmatched realm isn't an arrogant character? Don't you feel that you're in for it? Ouyang Xiaolu had a smile that was not a smile on her face as she stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian had an expression of depression on his face. Within the unmatched realm, a figure abruptly opened his eyes, staring at the person in front of him as he asked, "You said that there's someone who obtained the authority to pass through all 36 halls?" "Yes." "How's that person?" "5th level of Yuanfu." "Let's go and take a look." That figure soared up into the air as he soared into the air. At the same time, on the stone rampart of the solitary sword mountain, a young man exuding magnificence could be seen. His long robes fluttered in the wind as several silhouettes stood beside him. Lin Haotian, this news was personally passed down by her. All 36 halls are open to him. Someone beside him spoke, causing a sharp light to flash in Lin Haotian's eyes. He, Lin Haotian, was a demon-level genius from the Sword Extinction sect. In the future, he would definitely become a Heaven's Chosen of the Sword Extinction sect, fighting his way to the top few rankings of the Heavenly Fate rankings. And now, in the unmatched realm, he had the authority to pass through all 13 halls. At the same moment, in a certain pavilion, there were several young ladies present. These young ladies were all exceedingly beautiful, exuding an extraordinary aura. In the Azure continent, the younger generations of some of the transcendent powers would join hands to barge into the unmatched realm, cultivating together. These young ladies were all geniuses from the Mystic Maiden Palace. The authority to pass through all 36 halls. The eyes of one of the young ladies in the center flickered with a strange light as she stated, "I really want to see what capabilities he has, to be able to receive such preferential treatment." After speaking, the young lady stood up. Within the Mystic Maiden Palace, she could be considered as one of the most outstanding characters. Hence, she had also obtained the authority to pass through all 36 halls. In any case, within the unmatched realm, the news of Qin Wentian obtaining the authority to pass through all 36 halls circulated around at the fastest speed. How many geniuses from the Grand Xia Empire had come to the unmatched realm? But before this, only 3 people had obtained the authority to pass through the unmatched realm, and all 3 of them were extremely powerful characters. Now that there was a 4th person, how could the crowd not be shocked? At this moment, Ouyang Quangsheng was currently bringing Qin Wentian around to familiarize himself with the environment of the unmatched realm. The unmatched realm was extremely vast, and the numerous ancient mountains exuded a celestial aura. In between the mountains, there were all sorts of buildings. Other than the top of the ancient mountains, there were also many great halls and pavilions at the foot of the mountains. In the unmatched realm, there won't be any accommodations arranged for you. You can stay anywhere, and cultivate anywhere. The few of them soared through the air as Ouyang Quangsheng introduced to Qin Wentian. There are many strange formations in the unmatched realm, you can barge into them to cultivate and temper your strength. There are also many ancient ruins left behind by the ancestors of the unmatched realm, be it cultivation arts or innate techniques. Naturally, the place with the most ancient ruins would be the precipice of Heaven's Moat. There are many ancient ruins left behind by the ancestors of the unmatched realm. Other than that, there are many sword scars in the Sword Scar Mountain, each and every one of them contains a terrifying sword intent, allowing sword cultivators to comprehend them. The Sword Extinction sect loves that place the most. The sword scars that were left behind by the ancestors of the unmatched realm, and some were left behind during battles. Oh yes, Chu Mang cultivates in axe techniques. If you have time, you can tell him to go to a place called the Sky Sea Stone Rampart. Over there was once a terrifying character who had comprehended the intent of true martial, and left behind an axe technique that contained boundless might. Even if a Yuanfu cultivator only comprehended a tiny bit of it, they would be able to unleash an overwhelming might, and might even be able to comprehend the second level of their mandates. Ouyang Guangsheng and Ouyang Xiaolu slowly introduced the unmatched realm to Qin Wentian, bringing him to various places in the unmatched realm, causing Qin Wentian to sigh in admiration. This unmatched realm was once a place where experts gathered, and there were simply too many treasures left behind. In addition to the fact that the old men of the 36 mountain peaks all had extremely high attainments in the martial path, it was no wonder that countless geniuses would travel tens of thousands of miles to cultivate here. The unmatched realm was a holy land for geniuses to cultivate. Even the geniuses of the transcendent powers would be willing to come here to cultivate. After all, the unmatched realm was different from the transcendent powers in the outside world. The unmatched realm was isolated from the rest of the world, and had no need for vanity or power. It was a place that was truly suitable for cultivation. Once you left the unmatched realm, even if there were teachers here, they wouldn't be able to help you much. The three of them roamed around the unmatched realm for a long time. Qin Wentian saw many ancient ruins, as well as many geniuses here. Cultivators at the 5th level of Yuanfu could be considered the weakest here. Most of the geniuses here were at the 7th or 8th level of Yuanfu. They came here to comprehend their mandates, hoping to break through to the perfection boundary before comprehending the 2nd level of their mandates. Naturally, Qin Wentian also met some geniuses whose cultivation bases he couldn't see through. These people were all at the Heavenly Dipper realm, and all of them looked extremely young, around the age of 30 or so. From this, one could see how high their talent was. And just as Qin Wentian returned to Wu Xiu's residence, a few silhouettes appeared in front of Qin Wentian, causing Ouyang Guangsheng to furrow his brows. They're from the multidirectional Thunder Wind sect. Ouyang Guangsheng stated in a low voice. The silhouettes of this group of people were as swift as the wind, and as they soared through the air, their gazes were fixed on Qin Wentian, who was standing beside Ouyang Guangsheng. Let me remind you, in the unmatched realm, other than obtaining the guidance of famous teachers, you can also clash with other geniuses at any time. Since you're already famous, I'm afraid you'll have to face such situations frequently, Ouyang Guangsheng added in a low voice, as he stared at the silhouettes in front of him. Newcomer, spar with me. A young man from the multidirectional Thunder Wind sect stared at Qin Wentian, as an intense battle intent gushed forth from him. His eyes were filled with lightning, and he exuded a violent aura, as though he could explode forth at any moment. The multidirectional Thunder Wind sect is one of the transcendent powers in the Azure continent. This person's name is Lei Yan, and his cultivation base is at the 6th level of Yuanfu. His lightning affinity is extremely powerful, and his attacks are extremely powerful. He can easily defeat cultivators at the 7th level of Yuanfu, Ouyang Guangsheng calmly explained, introducing Lei Yan's strength to Qin Wentian. Lei Yan's lips curled up in a faint smile when he heard Ouyang Guangsheng's words. He really wanted to see what was so special about this person who obtained the authority to cultivate the 36 mountain peaks. As long as I don't kill him or cripple him, I can do whatever I want. Qin Wentian asked Ouyang Guangsheng, his words causing Ouyang Guangsheng to roll his eyes. This brother of his was truly arrogant enough. Emicham, Ouyang Guangsheng nodded. Will he use the power of his sect for revenge? Qin Wentian continued asking. Who do you take me, Lei Yan, for? Lei Yan icily replied. Newcomer, you're too arrogant. If I don't wish to encounter such situations frequently, I'll have to be more ruthless. If not, I'm afraid I'll be harassed more often in the future, Qin Wentian mused, before smiling at Lei Yan. Chapter 316. Lei Yan was at the 6th level of Yuanfu, and his astral souls were also lightning-type astral souls, allowing him to control the mandate of lightning. The attack power of lightning was already extremely tyrannical, hence Lei Yan's attacks had always been extremely terrifying. Against ordinary cultivators at the same level as him, he would definitely be able to suppress them. Yet this Qin Wentian in front of him was already a level lower than him, yet he still dared to be so arrogant. If it wasn't for the fact that Qin Wentian had obtained the authority to cultivate all 36 halls, Lei Yan wouldn't even have come to look for Qin Wentian. Waving his hands, the experts from the multidirectional Thunder Wind sect stepped aside. Ouyang Guangsheng and Ouyang Xiaolu also retreated, leaving space for Lei Yan and Qin Wentian. A raging wind gusted by as Lei Yan's body was enveloped by an intense hurricane. The multidirectional Thunder Wind sect wasn't only proficient in lightning, there were also many experts who were proficient in the mandate of wind. 2 different wills of mandates erupted forth, as well as his astral souls. Lei Yan regarded Qin Wentian with extreme importance. He wanted to use his overwhelming strength to suppress Qin Wentian, letting him know the price of arrogance. A pair of Garuda wings appeared on Qin Wentian's back as he stood in the air. Despite the raging wind gusting against him, he still exuded an aura as stable as a mountain. At the same time, a surge of demonic qi gushed forth from him. Bzzz. The raging wind gusted by, as Lei Yan's silhouette was bathed in violet lightning. A terrifying violet sword of lightning appeared in his hands, instantly appearing before Qin Wentian. The lightning sword slashed out explosively, causing terrifying crackling sounds to echo out in the air, enveloping the entire space in front of him. The dispersion of lightning attacks was extremely powerful. Even before the sword landed, Qin Wentian already felt his entire body being suppressed by the mandate of lightning. However, Qin Wentian's physique was extremely strong. Demonic qi gushed forth from him, and with a flip of his palms, his entire arm was enveloped by demonic qi as the roars of dragons could be heard. As the thunder sword slashed down, Qin Wentian's dragon seal fiercely blasted out like a demonic dragon, containing terrifying power. With a loud rumble, the thunder sword and the dragon seal both shattered. Lei Yan roared in rage and a terrifying bolt of lightning shot out from his eyes, pressing down on Qin Wentian's eyes. Qin Wentian's eyes similarly flickered with a terrifying light, incomparably deep and boundless, causing Lei Yan to feel a sense of surrealism. It was as though he was about to enter a dream. In that instant of blurriness, Lei Yan felt as though he had seen a third eye. This third eye swept past the center of Qin Wentian's brows, causing his mind to tremble violently. It was as though a ferocious primordial demonic beast was roaring in his mind. Puchi. Qin Wentian stabbed out with a finger as demonic qi towered up into the skies, permeating the entire space. The countenances of those from the multidirectional Thunder Wind sect drastically changed as they howled in rage. Careful. Lei Yan felt a piercing pain in his head, and with a howl of rage, a surge of lightning bloodline erupted forth from his body, causing a towering violet light to radiate from him. However, at the instant this surge of power erupted forth, a finger landed on Lei Yan's chest. Lei Yan only felt as if all the energy in his body had been severed, as an intense pain erupted from his chest. Peng! A fist ruthlessly slammed into Lei Yan's head, causing blood to flow from his nose as his head buzzed. Peng, peng, peng. Punches after punches rained down. Qin Wentian's lightning flames danced wildly in the air. His wings flickered as he soared through the air together with the lightning flames. Every explosion caused the hearts of the spectators to pound violently. Too ruthless. Ouyang Guangsheng's eyelids twitched violently. This fellow was too violent. Ouyang Xiaolu rolled her eyes. It seemed like Ouyang Ting was still very fortunate. Stop! Those from the multidirectional Thunder Wind sect howled as they chased after Qin Wentian and Lei Yan. With a deafening boom, Lei Yan's body slammed into the experts from the multidirectional Thunder Wind sect. When they saw Lei Yan's miserable state, his face was completely deformed, and it was unknown how much blood flowed from his wounds. All of them gritted their teeth as they stared at Qin Wentian with ashen expressions, as though they wanted nothing more than to slice Qin Wentian into 1,000 pieces. Qin Wentian retracted his aura, revealing an innocent expression on his face as he shrugged. He was the one who wanted to fight. Not only that, given the reputation of the multidirectional Thunder Wind sect, I'm sure they wouldn't do something like retaliating against us. Those from the multidirectional Thunder Wind sect were infuriated to the extreme. Not only that, Lei Yan had personally said what did Qin Wentian think of him as. This meant that he wouldn't retaliate against Qin Wentian. At this moment, even Lei Yan himself wanted to take revenge. Sadly, he was so badly beaten up that he couldn't even speak. Although the battle in this space happened very quickly, there were still many spectators who came over to spectate. When they saw Lei Yan being beaten half to death, many of them had a brand new impression of this newcomer. Sparring was risky, it was best not to provoke him. Lei Yan's cultivation base is at the 6th level of Yuanfu, and he also has the power of his bloodline. Even before he could unleash his bloodline, he was already beaten to such a state. This is too tragic. This newcomer must have some special methods that caught Lei Yan off guard. Many in the crowd speculated in their hearts. The battle was too fast, even those from the multidirectional Thunder Winds sect couldn't see clearly what happened. When the two of them fought, a resplendent light flashed as lightning engulfed everything. Who would be able to see the will of dreams in Qin Wentian's eyes? Even Lei Yan himself thought that it was an illusion. I can only say that Lei Yan is too useless. Lu Shi coldly stated. The multidirectional Thunder Winds sect turned their furious eyes over, only to see an extremely beautiful woman. Lu Shi, are you very strong? At the very least, I wouldn't be beaten to such a state by someone at the 5th level of Yuanfu. Lu Shi was a Heaven's Chosen from the Mystic Maiden Palace. Being a Heaven's Chosen meant that she would definitely become a Heaven's Chosen in the future, contending for the Heavenly Fate rankings. Right now, her cultivation base was at the peak of the 6th level of Yuanfu, and she could step into the 7th level at any time. Not only that, she was extremely beautiful and had many suitors. Beside Lu Shi, there were many beautiful maidens from the Mystic Maiden Palace. Lu Shi was like the moon surrounded by stars. She came here because she wanted to witness the strength of this famous newcomer, yet she didn't expect to see Lei Yan being beaten up the moment she arrived. Lu Shi's beautiful eyes flickered as she stared at Qin Wentian. Let me spar with you, I want to see if you have the qualifications to ascend to the 36 mountain peaks. I'm not interested in sparring. Qin Wentian shrugged, feeling somewhat depressed. He had already beaten Lei Yan to such a state, yet these fellows were still unwilling to let him off the hook. This was extremely annoying. Even if you're not interested, you still have to spar with me. Lu Shi domineeringly stated. As a Heaven's Chosen, she was already used to such an attitude. Since she was already here, how could it be up to Qin Wentian to make a choice? I won't be polite to women either, you better think this through. Qin Wentian felt somewhat depressed. He could tell with a single glance that his opponent was at the 6th level of Yuanfu. He should be able to suppress anyone at this level. The geniuses of the unmatched realm were all extremely confident in themselves. But for Qin Wentian, how could he not be extremely confident in himself? This kind of self-confidence, in the eyes of others, was nothing more than arrogance. Lu Shi stared at him as a cold smile appeared on her face. You are truly arrogant. After speaking, Lu Shi stepped out as she released her astral souls. At the same time, an intense bloodline aura erupted forth from her body. Lu Shi has the dual attributes of ice and fire. Not only that, her mandate of ice and fire can be infused into her attacks, causing her to be extremely powerful. In addition to her mystical maiden sword, the might of her attacks is truly terrifying. Someone mused. Lu Shi's silhouette flickered as she lunged towards Qin Wentian. The intense ice and fire aura enveloped Qin Wentian's body, causing him to feel extremely uncomfortable. As for Lu Shi, at this moment, her entire person seemed to have transformed into a shadow. Wielding a sharp sword in her hands, she resembled a celestial maiden from the 9 heavens, floating in the air. However, at this moment, Qin Wentian closed his eyes. He didn't need to use his eyes to see. A candle flame quietly burned within his body, flickering with a resplendent light. Everything that happened in the external world was imprinted into his mind. Too clear. Lu Shi's movements were extremely quick. Her mystical maiden of the 9 heavens movement technique gave off a marvelous feeling. It was impossible to fathom, as though it contained a special kind of profoundness. He saw Lu Shi's sword slashing towards him, and at the instant it passed by him, the sword was like autumn water, disappearing in an instant. Bzzz. Qin Wendian moved, moving together with Lu Shi, as though he was walking side by side with her. The demonic qi on his arms towered up the skies, transforming into the arms of a qilin. The divine energy in his body gushed forth as he stabbed out with a single finger. From the perspective of the spectators, Qin Wendian's body was being lacerated by the ice and fire, as though he had already fallen into Lu Shi's attack. But in the next instant, a light-piercing sound rang out as the two silhouettes stopped in their tracks. After which, Qin Wendian's fingers slammed into Lu Shi's chest. This scene caused the spectators to be dumbfounded. This position, what was even stranger was that Qin Wendian bluntly punched out, slamming into Lu Shi's chest. After which, his silhouette moved like a shadow, sticking close to her as he unleashed a barrage of attacks. Boom, 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 the hearts of the spectators pounded in tandem with Qin Wendian's attacks. Everyone was dumbfounded until Qin Wendian finally stopped. Ouyang Quanxing spat out a single word, intrepid. Qin Wendian was too intrepid. This fellow was in for it, treating Lu Shi like this. Lu Shi was a heaven's chosen from the mystic maiden palace. She was a combination of beauty and talent, yet he didn't show the slightest bit of tenderness towards her. Let's go. Ouyang Quanxing walked to Qin Wendian's side, pulling him along as they departed. Qin Wendian glanced at Ouyang Quanxing and asked, "What's wrong?" "You're more ruthless than me, but it's better for us to avoid the limelight for now." Ouyang Quanxing speechlessly replied. I can still take revenge?" Qin Wendian asked in a depressed tone. "Are you going to reason with the guy who's wooing Lu Shi?" Ouyang Quanxing rolled his eyes. "What you're doing is called destroying a flower." "Fine, let's find a good place to cultivate." Qin Wendian whistled as he sped away. Not long after, they arrived at a place where the mountains and seas intersected. Qin Wendian stood at the edge of a cliff. Below them, the waves of the sea slammed against the cliff as a gust of wind blew past. In front of Qin Wendian, there were traces left behind by many seniors. "What's this?" Qin Wendian stared at the scenery in front of him. "It was left behind by an expert from the demonic realm." Ouyang Quanxing replied. Qin Wendian nodded, as he started inscribing divine inscriptions beneath his feet, causing Ouyang Quanxing to be stunned. Inscribing divine inscriptions? If someone comes for revenge, just toss them into the sea. Qin Wendian inclined his head as a radiant smile appeared on his face, causing Ouyang Quanxing to facepalm. This fellow was even more troublesome than him. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.